Welcome to another rousing broadcast, or should I say the color cast. This is the color cast of Forbidden America. If it's forbidden America, let's talk about it. And that's why I do this show. Everybody says, why do you call it Forbidden America? It's a stupid name. And I'm like, well, what's forbidden America? Some things you're not supposed to be able to talk about. Like, you can't talk about, true things that nobody wants to deal with, like what the government really wants to do. We don't get into the crazy unsupported conspiracy theories, but we do get into the compelling conspiracy theory type stuff that has documents to back up what you're talking about, so that you can follow the trail and go, holy shit, that stuff's real. Yeah, dude, that stuff's real, but we're not supposed to talk about it. It's forbidden America, and that's why I'm here. But I also talk about things that aren't dark, and believe it or not. And I know people who are they're like warriors. They're really trying to make things better for everybody and showing them how it is that the simple little things that can be done to shift their perception of reality and thereby change their reality. One of those examples is Brenda Power, a medicine woman. She is somebody that used to be on my network, the Illuminati Network. Long story about why we named it that. We'll get into it later. And she was one of the more she was the host and producer of one of the more popular shows on that network, which was Medicine Women Reveal. And she went through different incarnations, and she had co-hosts, and then she went solo, and then she was just trying to find her way. And then of course she changed countries, but that didn't really change much. It took her a little while to get back on her feet in terms of broadcasting, but she never really went away. She was just strategizing how she was going to tackle it now. And she kept telling me through the whole journey, I'm not going to do this or that or this until Spirit tells me which of these things I'm supposed to be doing and how long I'm supposed to wait for each one. I see what she's talking about. I'm very well trained and all that kind of stuff. But I'm also one of these Aries types. I like to do shit right now. And when people say, oh, we're going to wait, we're going to see, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you do that. And, I get frustrated with folks. But Brenda knows what she's doing. And she waited till just the right time, and now she's exploding, and there's a good reason why she's exploding. So anyway, as Tom Snyder used to say, sit back, relax, fire up a color teeny, and watch the pictures as they fly through the air. I bring you Forbidden America and Brenda Power. Welcome, Brenda.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
You look good.
Oh, well, thank you. So, there's always this little motto that comes along with me, and that is resolve to evolve. And usually if you happen to be on my show, you will hear my moderator speaking, and she'll go, oh, her cue after I say resolve to evolve is heal instead of deal. And, so we have this thing, and we just don't say them. We live them, we act them, we breathe them. So just kind of going to clarify what you said, waiting for Spirit to help you do something. And it's not your typical way of thinking, because I know there is an ego mindset and there's a spirit mindset. And that means a mindset is different. So if you want to create a new reality, you have to change your personality. And you don't change your personality for people. You change your personality for yourself so that you can move forward. Now, when it comes to resolve to evolve, the most important part of it is that you take and understand, what are you resolving? Usually it's issues. Most people will sit there and rinse and repeat, every day. So you got 90,000 thoughts that you thought the day before, which create today. And those 90 thoughts from the day before, you use and to create this day. So here's the problem. If you're thinking those 90,000 thoughts a day, that you had the day before, what are you supposed to do about today? Do you keep rinsing and repeating, or can you actually resolve something and evolve your type of thinking?
Well, that brings up a nuance that I wasn't aware of. I've heard you say resolve to evolve for quite a while now, but I didn't realize the connotations that were involved. For instance, I thought it meant resolve to evolve. Make up your mind that you're going to evolve. That's what I thought it meant, and it does, I guess, mean that.
It's
But
just
you're telling me it also means resolve as the verb,
Mhm.
resolve something, so that by doing that you can evolve to the next progressional state. So
Yeah,
it's not just making up your mind to evolve; it's resolving something in particular that's holding you back because you're not dealing with it, so that you can evolve. So it's two different meanings there that I wasn't aware of, and the second one being resolve something so that you can evolve, not just make up your mind that you'll evolve. So that's I
makes
learned
sense.
something right there. Yeah, there you go.
So when it becomes to resolve to evolve, a lot of times we forget that or maybe we don't even know, we're made of energy. Here's the problem: is that energy, if you have a heart, and when you're exercising, it has a pump. The blood pumps through and it helps to cleanse and clear, but there's also the immune system and it has no pump, and it can get very stagnant. Now, you're also made up with a whole bunch of other energies that has to do with your level of consciousness, that has
Mm-hmm.
to do with your type of thinking. Like with the gallbladder, they're like, oh, it's just a gallbladder, right? And most people don't even know where it's located and
Mm-hmm.
what its function is. But if you understand energetically, are you indecisive? That's a first sign that your energies are off. And one of the things about the gallbladder meridian is that it runs through the head. It starts like here, and then it goes down and up and forward and back, and it just covers both sides of the head and then goes down the body. But if you're very indecisive, that means that usually you're stuck on a particular issue. The gallbladder, when I'm looking at it, will come up with a story of a particular emotions. So, for instance, it is spinning out. A lot of people don't know that physically you can be spinning out, and it can be from this meridian, but also you spin out when it comes to you're communicating and somebody says something and you're like, what? And then you spin out. And that is because how you reacted to an experience, this meridian is going to either say, hey, we've experienced this before. I'm going to give you the auto response, or I'm going to give you the response because it's you stuck in an arrested development. You cannot move past this. So you are always looking at old responses. So if you have an emotion that created a sensation or a symptom, then what you're doing is you're looking at an end result from a past experience. So when I'm looking at people's energies, all you have to do is give me your name, and usually I'll start to tune in, find out that entanglement cord that you have created to those moments and times with your experiences where you're stuck. That means a certain percentage of your energy, your life force, has been and will continue to be invested in that moment in time. So, what do? I give you the information so you have a chance to look at the emotion that's tied to that specific experience. Some can be very traumatic and drama, and any of this, the level of which way you are deciding, a belief system, the strategy to survive, self preservation, all of these will make up your type of thinking, your type of personality. And sometimes when you have an emotion and it lasts more than 2 minutes, then it starts to turn into a mood swing. And if that lasts a little longer, then it turns it into an attitude. And if it lasts longer than 6 months, why are you pissed off? Well, 6 months ago, he pissed me off. And you're still holding on to it, it can turn into a temperament, which then your personality creates your personal reality. And you get stuck. And that's not the path you want to be on. And this is where your soul is saying, can you heal it now? So every time that shit gets hit to the fan, it is, can you heal it now? And most people are like, well, I don't want to. Well, there's different levels of thinking. It doesn't matter where you're at. If you like that thought processing, those emotions, that mental health, go for it. Keep it. There's nothing wrong with it. Respect where you're at. But if you're driving yourself nuts with your own thinking because you can't process cope, handle, deal, and pacify those thoughts based on that experience, then you're going to have a mental health issue, which means that you're not crazy. It's just that your moment, whatever you're conditioned from, will sit there and keep repeating it because you're disconnecting from that light source. You're starting to dive further into just that left brain. And I'm not saying all left brains are like that, but the left brain will do the past and the future. So a lot of people will get stuck in panic. What does that mean? That means energetically, you probably flipped your polarity. You probably sat there and because each meridian are connected to elements. So you're probably sitting there and you have too much wood feeding into the fire, and because you're constantly thinking about what pisses you off. And if you aren't able to calm that chemical peptide, the emotional chemical peptide, then you're going to be stuck repeating. So I like to teach people not only to help them understand their emotions and what's going on in their body, but to give them a tool. And the tools are resolving tools. I call them healing tools. They're resolving tools. But you have the ability to calm yourself down. And I'm not saying, oh, I'm going to overcome this. I'm just going to really focus. No, you have an innate intelligence inside your body, greater than you. And one of the things we like to do is use tools. And one of them is just this.
At first, I thought you were telling me about a death metal band, like live at the Worcester Centrum, Gallbladder Meridian, with opening act John Tesh and his lovely wife Connie Selica. That's the first thing that came into my mind. No, one of the things that went through my mind while you were talking about the aspects that led into the answer to the introduction there is, people identify. It occurred to me that people identify as something, like they're all about like, oh, I like motorcycles, and I'm a biker. Well, no, you're John. What is John? Well, I'm a biker. Yeah, but what are you really? You like bikes, but that's not everything that you are. People don't. It occurs to me that people don't look at their core selves.
No.
They can't see their core self. They only see themselves as, I'm an All Blacks fan, or I'm a Patriots fan, or I'm all about being a mom, or I'm all about, those things are great. And some of those things are important, but who are you? Like, I'm so-and-so's wife. Who are you? Exactly. I'm so-and-so's brother. Yeah, dude, who are you? And they don't know. They can't tell you.
That's how we're helping people to awake. And when you're at that stage, again, whatever you choose to live your life, that's fine. But as you begin to awaken, you begin to ask questions. And where do you get those answers? And how do you do it? And usually you cannot get past all of your emotional crap. And this is why you resolve those emotional craps. And what happens with the healing tool, like just putting your hand on your forehead alone. Okay, so I can't stop thinking about how much he just pisses me off. And I always tell people, measure that. 10 being, you can't stop focusing, because those 41 thoughts per minute, and that's every minute. So for 30 minutes, you've been thinking about the same story. Your brain is hardwiring itself. You're memorizing it, and your body's consciousness is going to store it. So this
is that why people do that? Is that why people, instinctively go like, oh, they do that? Is that because it's reflexive?
Well, no, it's because we already have an innate intelligence. We forgot how to heal ourselves. This is such an important tool. There's steps to it. But let me explain. The frontal lobe. The frontal lobe in your body, when you go into fear, fight, flight, freeze, 80% of the blood leaves your forebrain, so you can go into self-preservation, go into protecting yourself, and you can't create your reality, because that frontal lobe helps you create reality. If you cannot get that blood back up, then you're still going to focus on certain things. Why do people constantly think about the issue? Because they are in some form of stress mode. So when you're putting your hand up here, you're bringing the blood back up, because you're an electromagnetic being. We are electromagnetic beings. Our blood is, our bodies are. And when you do this, you're helping to heal yourself, bringing that blood up, allowing yourself to. And when the blood gets up there, all of a sudden, especially when you are using intention to look at something and measure it so that you can get the awareness, what will happen is that you will start to, hey, I want to choose hell or heaven. Which kind of state of mind do I want? And when you start getting relief where the insanity is like, I can't do this anymore, blah, 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 because the emotional chemical peptide, the emotion, whatever the emotion you're going through, is fired and it is wired and it is just taking off and it's vibrating and it's just, but when you calm that down, you can actually take these negative emotions off these memories. You can still have the memories, you can still remember what it's like, but it doesn't have to own you. So by just doing this, those thoughts, they're crazy because the emotion is feeding it to get stronger. But when you're doing this, the blood's coming back up, and all of a sudden, the thoughts calm down, the emotions calm down, and you can measure it. And when people start to get a taste of the fact that, you mean I don't have to be in anxiety, panic, depression, I don't have to be angry, I don't have to attack back, I don't have to go into maneuvers to protect myself like every soap opera storyline ever is. You mean I can actually start to be connected to the joy instead of misery? Yeah, because suffering is an option. You have the healing tools and they're all in your hands. And even if you don't have hands, you still have a thought, you still have intention, and you can raise your level of consciousness. And that is the very important part about growth. So it depends on what you want. Most people are just, hey, consciously, this is what I'm doing in this moment. This is what I like. But when people start to realize that they don't have to be in this particular state of the frame of mind. Yes, NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, and it is part of my history of the things that I've learned. But it's only one attribute of my modality that I have learned to use. Okay, so there's more to healing tools that you can use. So he's distracting me.
I am. That's my job.
No,
That's
it's
what I do. That's not the one I wanted. That's not what I wanted.
But there is a lot of healing tools. You can heal yourself. So what I like to do is empower people to strengthen who they are by finding their voice, by getting their self-esteem back without feeling that they always have to be their pain and sufferings. So they don't always have to be their past. And when people start getting epiphanies, an awakening of noticing, wait, whoa, my shit from my youth is affecting me now. Yes, but it can be resolved to evolve. So when you think that your conditioned process when you were home, you're thinking, oh, I just aged, that doesn't affect me. No, it does. Because most of you have heard that, oh yeah, you married your father, you married your mother, you married your sister, and you're like, well, that's just gross. No, it's the personality. It is what you were exposed to growing up. If you were yelled at and screamed at and you've taken a timid stance as part of your mask to protect yourself, that you always then become the martyr so that they don't blow their top. These are different masks and different behaviors that we take on in order to survive that moment. And then we age. So then we create fractal moments that keep repeating the same story. And if you don't realize it, you are repeating different stories. But it's basically an unresolved issues that create a continued story, and then they collect other stories, and then it can get very chaotic if you don't know how to sit there and be the healer. And the best healer of all is yourself, one that can heal himself. So in lack of a better terms, I'm considered the healer and you're considered the healee. But once I start to give you your own power back, show you how to resolve, to evolve, you get your power back, you realize that you are a healer. I don't want to be in this shit. I'm going to grab a tool. And I can learn to get my voice back, and I don't have to keep getting beat down and having to be in this. People that suffer physically. Now, there are degrees, very extreme and chronic to very mild. There is the dis-ease, where the energy becomes unease, and what are you attached to? So there are unresolved issues when it comes to this. Now, when I'm using source point healing, And that is something that spirit has taught me to do, and it's based on acupuncture. It's on acupressure. It's based on the meridians. Well, what does it do? I'm teaching people you don't have to put up with the headache. All you do is you have to focus. And people come to me and they go, "Oh my God, I got a migraine." Okay. I'll say, okay, sometimes it is think left brain, rub these points. And you're like, what points? Well, has to do with the acupuncture points. Okay. And I have a whole bunch of sheets. And usually on my show, I will tell people, they're like, "Oh my God, I feel awful." All right, rub this, think this, do this. And then boom, hey, I got a clearer head. My pain's gone. Then we've gone down to where somebody I know had a welts all over the bodies, and they just couldn't get rid of it. No medicine, no nothing was helping. So for every day for 11 days, they started to rub certain points to get the energies moving so it feeds the other. And the next thing you know, their body started to create a systemic healing, which then their body began to realize that it does have support. It doesn't have to feel like it has to flail around in the wind and die off because there's nothing there to help. Empowering people on a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level is what I love to do. What I really love to do is see that they have grown and they're making the choice every day. Oh God, my life was hell, but I used a tool and I recovered, and the turnaround time, some people are amazed. I would sit in this for weeks and months, and all of a sudden I did it in 15 minutes and I'm back to joy. That just warms my heart, because they're understanding that the power is within them and that they're the healing tool. I've been in places where, I can't get my crystals and I can't get my oils, and you don't have to. You are the tool. You have the capabilities. It is giving you enough information and a different set of information, giving you the tools of how to use that information, that your brain gets to predict better, because your brain only lives in this dark skull, sees only a little bit of light, and only thing that you feed it is your thinking and your feeling. So it'll just keep predicting that right temporal junction parietal lobe, where it only thinks what other people think, and you try to resolve to evolve by saying, hey, I'm going to logically think this through while I'm stressed. You can put yourself in high beta and begin to run with scissors. Any questions? Because I just threw out a bunch of stuff there. Just checking.
People are saying that you look beautiful.
Oh, why, thank you. The color I could not get right. But all of a sudden, Spirit says,
what's the lighting that you have? Is that daylight, window light, or is it artificial lighting?
Both. Daylight. I had to get a certain bulb that has too much blue, so I put a little bit of yellow over it. If I don't like the lighting, I can just turn this one on and re-neutralize. It's taken me a journey and a half to be able to balance out the light. But at the same time, metaphorically, have I been healing myself out? My confidence. And every time I'm building up my confidence and I've had to meet, oh shit, this didn't work, that's ego. Spirit goes, steps. What if we do this? And it's learning to resolve to evolve on a thinking scale by listening to spirit to say, how about this? Instead of ego goes, well, if I do this and this and that, bitch about it, using flippant thinking. Or I can say, sit in my spiritual mindset, and all of a sudden I will just start downloading all these different answers about what I could do. And one of them will stick.
Do you have a thing that you do, or that you potentially consider doing, when someone is looking at you like you're from Mars, like just don't get where you're coming from?
No, I don't.
Or do you just say, not my problem? When they're ready to hear it, they'll hear it, and then I'm here to impart it. Or is that how you go? Or is it like you have a thing where they're like, what the hell are you talking about? And they really don't get it. Like, do you have a procedure that you go through with them if it looks like they're interested, but they don't understand what you're doing? Or do you just say, you know what, when they're ready, they'll come back? Which one is it? Or is it both?
No, it's more. So we're going to take the third option, and that's the one thing I teach. So first of all, depending on what level of consciousness you're at, if you're just beginning to go out there, your inner world creates your outer world. And depending on where you are on your level of consciousness, you're going to create people that are going to go, oh my God, I don't want to hear from her. For 20 years in my marriage, I had nobody wanted to give a rat's ass about what I thought. And I go, oh, just keep her quiet. Let's talk about this. And when, and every time I did talk about this, they gave me crickets. And it's like, you know what? I'm out of alignment. So as I began to heal my shit and evolve, everything started to zig and zag. So there are more people that I became in like-minded with. The alignment started to bring people, and less of the other. Now, when I had to engage in groups where people didn't want it, I didn't pull it out and decide, here, I'm going to show it off. No, I just, it wasn't worth my time. I asked Spirit, what am I doing here? Why? Oh, am I supposed to just maybe support somebody? Or it had nothing to do with me. Now, if they come up and ask me, then it's like, okay, well, if you're interested, I can keep it sweet.
So let's back up a point, because we haven't intentionally done it, but you kind of glossed over one point that I picked up on, and that is that you were out of alignment. So you were trying to figure out what your vibration was supposed to be, and then get to that vibration, to think in the terms that you needed to think to be at one with the concepts that you weren't entirely at one with. And then so you got to work within yourself to do that. And doing that somehow, maybe not in a way that you can even define, draw the people who are receptive to within earshot, to around you, to hear the message, as opposed to the people who would sit across the table and go, what? So
do you know what a law of attraction is?
I do.
So you understand that what you put out is what comes back?
Yeah.
So as I am more unevolved of who I am and what I feel and what I stand for, the more I'm going to create an opposition that's going to test me and challenge me so I can really define me. That's one answer. So I didn't gloss over it. I was going to continue what I was saying. So the more that I started to educate myself, the more I would change the energy of the people. I don't even draw people in that want to create controversy. Have I been in a situation where they glossed over their eyes and going, what the fuck? Yes, but that's only because they're listening and they're doing that. And it's like, if they start to ask me particular questions, I'm looking at them and I'm like, well, do you really want to know the answer? And most of the time they'll say no.
So why'd they ask a question? Yeah, exactly.
If they want to sit there and fight, I'll say, well, what is your belief? Because all they want to do is to not really want to learn different things. They just want to fight. So if they've got the fighting energy, I don't have to play. And I don't have to do this. Now, when like I said, when I'm pushed into a situation where all of a sudden I'm having to be around people that are not like-minded as me, then I ask Spirit, what am I doing here? What am I supposed to look at? What perspective is being shown to me? Because this is a growth opportunity. It doesn't mean I have to shut my mouth down. Now, if I'm responding and I go within and I'm scared, that is what's called a whispering opportunity. I don't need a bitch slap to say, hey, you shut down every time somebody does this. If I start becoming aware of it, I'm like, oh, why am I doing that? And I address the situation, then I can stop making that situation show up. Okay? Literally, I get to change what I match. I match the alignment. If I'm putting my inner world as creating the outer world, that I betray myself because, I'm just going to let everybody walk all over me, is my unresolved growth pattern, then I'm going to see this until I resolve it.
Eastern teachings talk about disengagement, and it bleeds over into martial arts as well. Disengagement when you're dealing with someone who, it's a waste of your time to deal with them, frankly, because they're not on the same wavelength, and everything that they encounter they're going to see it as adversarial, and it's completely unnecessary. So you disengage, because there's no point in engaging, because you're just going to get drawn into something that
is an option. Yes. And
right. And so, yeah.
Are you in? If you're an ego mindset and you just figure you want to just engage because that's a good philosophy, then you can be missing a lot of the gems that can help you grow and evolve. Or if you're in your spiritual mindset and this happens, yes, you pick your choice of what you want to fight with or not fight. I listen with discernment and with a grain of salt and not have to take offense. But if there is this part that I have to have somebody that thinks that they got to be the devil's advocate, or they want to be the skepticism. The question is, why would my soul produce this so I can be in that situation? There has to be an unfoldment, something going on. So when I'm in that situation, I don't have to take offense, because that's ego mindset. I don't have to lose my shit, because if I do, that means I'm in an ego lesson, and I'm actually showing myself where I've lost power. And I can choose to resolve it instead of waste it. Now, a lot of people just waste it and don't realize that they have an opportunity to resolve it. The more that I start to grow, the less I create these people. But if I put myself in a situation like family situations, I don't ever have to talk about it, because you can feel everybody's, their thoughts, their emotions. That's a different challenge. Why? Because I'm a sensitive, I'm an empath, and I forgot what the other one is I am. But the point is that I can pick up and hear, and I don't need to, because it's like, so my emotions, I can either morph into whoever it is I want to, unintentionally. If people are pissed off, it's going to get to me. It's going to hit my nerves if I don't know how to protect myself. If your aura's down, in the simple terms of saying that, you're going to absorb stuff in and not even know it. So you have to be taught how to observe, protect yourself by using tools to make your energy stronger. And if you get people shit in your space, you can learn how to use energy tools to kick their energies out, so that you are again getting your length of your energy, which is what you were born to have. And this is your aura field. This is your space.
This reminds me of a teaching that I once had when early on, I don't know, like 30 years ago. I'm old. And I was learning about auras, at the time. And there was this, douchebag in the room who's just wants to be a douchebag, is going to be contrary, is going to be negative, is going to be just unpleasant. There are people that just are really busy trying to be that way. He was. And there was somebody in the room that wasn't being confrontational to this person, like, shut up, go away. They weren't dealing with them at all, or seemingly not dealing with them. But later I found out that this person had taken a stance that you really wouldn't notice unless you were trained. And that when he stood with his back against the wall, a bunch of people in the room, so it's not like he was noticeable per se, and his arm down at his side with his palm facing forward, which isn't really that natural. You see the pictures of, like, say, for instance, a lot of the spiritual icons, but like Jesus, for instance, the palms are facing forward. The pushing out of one's aura is the stance is that your arms are generally down, or maybe a little elevated slightly, with the palms forward, because you're allowing the energy that surrounds you to radiate. Well, he was doing that, apparently, I was told later, and pushing his energy further and further out, and pushed the guy out of the room. He just, basically his opportunities or his appetite for continuing to work that room as a dark worker dried up, and he basically just left. And it looked as though it was of his own volition, when in fact I was told later, it looks that way, but he was pushed out of the room by positive energy.
Yes, because you have to be learned to be responsible for the energy into your space. And there are several different tools and techniques that this world has that it's basically forbidden to know, or it's the best kept secret. And it is time for us to step up and realize that we can change the pace of the room. So the more that your aura is sucked in, the more you're going to allow something to control you. If there are people that are intentionally doing this negative space, if you do not understand how to own your energy or to expand that light, then you are going to probably absorb it. So yes, I like the idea is that you can understand your energy, and you are responsible for how you bring it into the room and how you can deliver it. Now, if you're going to use the intention to harm others, then no, I don't want to talk to you. But if you want to protect yourself and you want to change the energy of the room because my husband's being an asshole, then all you do is have to start putting out the light. He'll either change his tune or he'll leave the room. Okay, so there are different ways that you can address what's happening in your space, because like I said, when I'm in the space and that is happening, and if I'm putting out the energy, but there's so much energy there, you can decide whether you want to stay or you want to go. But if you take it personal and you get angry, then you're in your ego mindset and you're going to have a lesson to learn because you missed the opportunity that's in the quantum field.
Speaking of husbands, how's he doing?
Oh, he's doing awesome. He's doing a lot of building out there. We are taking our property, and in the front, we had it as a labyrinth. Now we extended it into a healing tool, and he's out there doing all of the building with the stones and all the artwork. So now we've extended the path to go along to the back, and we've now created a path behind the pool. We're creating a dragon around the pool so that it can actually have flaming nostrils. So we're doing a lot of fun stuff right now. We take all the water out of the pool and we're fixing that up. So cool. It's good to see all the people in the room, and thank you. Yes, I'm a kinesthetic. Thank you, Tammy.
Have you ever had, or do you ever plan to have like people at your home in the vein of being clients, like groups to come and be in the grotto and just kind of, use it as a setting for teaching?
Yes, because this whole area, this here's the office, and it does take clients. COVID makes it a little touchy. I used to teach a live healing group. They come to my house. I did it since 2003, and it would hold 20 or 30 people, and so we changed things up. I moved to South Australia, and we are going to open up the back area so it's outside, because in Australia it's usually pretty much nice and warm, and this is a really frigid winter. And do I hold classes? That's the other question. Do we open up so that the living room's bigger so it holds everybody? Or do we now do it just via, Facebook? Because a lot of my students now are in Michigan, Minnesota, Canada, and I can take my camera outside and, and we can enjoy the weather out there as well. But teaching is important. And that's why I love this avenue that we do have, because I can reach more people. And doing this one-on-one with Zoom that I use, it is as if they're in the same room together. Now, I can't muscle test them, but I still can demonstrate a lot of the information.
On Hopeful News, there's like 7 different front runners for closing in on preliminary testings of what might be a vaccine. So that's hopeful.
Yeah, that means that we as a collective of consciousness are starting to evolve, and the more we start to evolve, the more you're going to find more answers that are going to help would uplift and change the way that we look at things. And health-wise, we're moving forward. We're finally starting to get back into the groove. Right now we're just in a transitional phase, and it's not always pretty. But
let's talk for a minute about anybody that watches the news. With regard to, say, the pandemic, and you see the success stories, like Vietnam is a relative success story, New Zealand, certainly. And they've had some troubles as of late, as of the last week or two. They're starting to get, they're being ultra careful now because it's reared its head again, and they're trying to figure out how and why. But, the abject bottom of the list of success, USA, number one. And people, and I can tell you this, and I've spoken with a couple of people, one in particular that's in your audience now. People are acting horrible in a way that I've never seen. They're bringing it on, and it's like, wow, like purposefully being assholes, purposefully being endangering others, and refusing to consider others' safety and so forth. There's a lot of that. Now, that's not just in the U.S., but we are like we're the flagship for that right now. A full third of the people here. We have we're closing in on 340 million people here that live here, and of those, a third are acting this way. That's a lot of friggin'. That's 100 million people. Minimum.
Well, that just shows the level of consciousness. The first chakra is sets in America. And the first chakra is about who am I? I mean, you can listen to the paradigms. I don't have rights. I have to fight for my rights.
Yeah.
There is always this cause and effect. Somebody's always the victim. Somebody's always the lofty fuckhead. Somewhere there's a hierarchy, but there is no coherence. There is no integration. There is none of this. And then there are groups that are sitting there and they are learning that, you know what? I'm done being an it. It is supposed to be an I, we. It is in a situation where we can grow. But when the more we stand in the archetypes, the more a victim, that means that you weren't just doing the pimp and hoe type archetypes, which is pretty much that's what's happening, is that somebody's got to be heavy-handed on somebody else. Somebody's got to be in charge of somebody else. Well, we're learning to find out that we don't have to constantly live in this abstract, constantly live and this keep repeating the same story, different day. People are waking up and realizing that I don't have to look externally for my happiness. I can look inside. I don't have to sit there and fight the outside. I can just take my energy off it, change my beliefs, and I don't have to participate in this anymore. I can learn to evolve. So when you are breaking away from your family, you have to break away from conditions that you grew up with. Family values, the race, the color, the gender, all of this is being addressed. And so how do you get away from that particular enclave? How do you break free from that? And you sometimes don't realize that I can't, but that's a belief. Is it true? What part of your brain keeps going into the right aspect of way you look at things and is in the construction zone of constantly being in the movie mind and not realizing that the power is within you? That's part of giving people back their voices. Their voice matters. It's not about sitting there and waving it around. It's about you going, my voice does matter in this little situation and that situation. And you get that power back, not so you can overpower people. No, that's not what it is. You have a life force. And if you can allow yourself to resolve your issues so you don't have to engage in this hell, keep repeating losing power by, I have to keep myself small. So when I'm looking at people and I'm giving people readings, like I'm looking at out in the audience, and if people would like to comment, I can tell you where your energy is being lost. I can tell you what condition is happening, because the first chakra is, how do I become me within a group and yet stay in the group? The second part of that chakra is again, chakras are level of consciousness. Where is your thinking? If it's in stinking thinking, you're going to be more in the negative aspect. You're going to be more in the, oh my God, I don't want to be an it, or I got to make people an it. So you use maneuvers to outdo one another in order to survive. So the first three levels of consciousness, they are meant to be evolved. And so shit's going to be rising up. You're going to see people choosing to not really be connected with the coherence of their heart. They're going to be more attached to their outcomes, their results, those emotions. This is I'm a victim of this circumstance, or I have to fight because this is what I have to do. But when you look at it, and like for instance, if a person sits there, okay, Betty says she'll play. Where's her power loss? One of the huge things, she knows her life the best. Okay,
Betty.
Only she knows all of the little things that's happening, where if she's showing them anything other than love, she can begin to understand she has a power loss. But there are different levels and stages and things that you've collected. So spirit when it comes to the idea of what's going on with Betty. And there is that they said that the inner energy becomes, because there's a certain amount of timidness that she created with the experience with life at 3 years old. And in order to overcome the timidness, she had to learn to expand herself and get disapproval from people, because she's also saying, I don't want to do this. So she, instead of going within, she became out fighting.
Is this Betty? You're talking about Betty?
Yeah, but Betty from My Betty.
My Betty. Betty, my Betty.
Yeah. But the thing is there's a certain amount of disapproval that she had to be okay with and reach in order for, because they already disapproved of her and she disapproved of that, they're starting to follow, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, this is what's got to happen. So if I were to say to Betty, what do you need to do? And they says, well, look at there's an auto response that when there is a certain amount of disapproval, how your body contracts the energy. As it contracts the energy, then she has to go into what's called the dark night of the soul, which means it's an automatic program that keeps you asleep and keeps you fighting. It keeps you repeating that story. And they said that you're close at bringing in and cracking and letting in the light, but you don't want to be compatible with a certain amount of people, but you had to figure out how to be, I don't know, for lack of a better word, stronger than them. So that's part of the maneuvers. But she's gone into a different area. She doesn't have to be that bully, and she doesn't have to be struck and compulsed and having to respond. She's starting to realize she can love people. And if they don't want it, that's their choice. Okay? She can sit there or she can go into ego and have hatred, or she can watch. She can just sit there and watch how everybody else goes into trying to control everybody. And usually it'll be the words of people. Oh, guilt and shame. I'm going to throw it at Betty and see if she'll give me what I want. And so there's always this, I want this particular outcome. I have this agenda. And everybody's fighting over who can change whose behavior first. And if she decides that she wants to change her thinking, I don't want to do this anymore, and she takes her power off that belief by taking the emotion and calming it down, she can start to evolve out of that situation. And then what will happen is that spirit will start to say, okay, you know what? This person that was really showing up to you with this issue, they will start to zig, and then she'll zag. People will start to disappear out of your life. You have to be okay with losing certain family and friends, because if you keep hanging on to something and spirit is showing you showed yourself that I don't like this, then you are getting a whisper. But if you keep going back for seconds and more, then all of a sudden you're going to have this bitch slap that's going to force yourself to let go. And a lot of people are like, nope, still going to hang on because family first. There's nothing wrong with having family and devotion and love, but if you have to sell your soul in order for to make them happy so that we can have a happy family, you may want to choose again about what you do and don't want. Okay. Now, so if there's people in the room that I've never seen before, then bring it forward. Allow yourself to step in the situation. Now, if you're an ego, it's going to feel like a hot seat. And like, bitch, please. But if you allow yourself to be open and want to see how everything's connected, and you have a chance and a choice to choose to move forward out of that hell, then you're going to say, aha, that makes sense. I am in that situation. I want this to stop. So you get to choose.
Betty's talking to you.
Mm-hmm. She says, timid is spot on. Okay, so when I'm looking at Linda, and she says, and timid and disassociation in the same area. So it depends on what you're saying there. And one of the things that when I'm looking just at her, Linda Love, there's a certain amount of her that's attached to a particular point. So at 3 years old, the outside controlled how her vibration was going to be, whether she was going to be happy, sad, or any of this. And they get to her, they get to manipulate her. And so then without realizing it, she has to act according to whoever it is that's in the room. Okay, so you want to, timid as you're pulling away, but it's not about a disassociation, because you can't stop the timid feelings unless you use a tool. If you are an ego and you feel timid and you're disassociating, it's a choice, but the root is still there. And it's going to keep popping up like a jack-in-the-box until you address it to resolve it down to nothing. So that's one of the things that's going to keep happening.
That Michigan accent there with the root.
The root, yeah.
Instead of root. Yeah.
You can hear me say roof. Yes. Okay. But no, Amy says, why do I keep spinning? Now, on a physical aspect, she's creating a physical.
Is she drinking? She's drinking, isn't she?
Nope.
No, I'm not drinking, Steve.
No, this woman doesn't drink. So we can actually hear her. So she could participate. So Miss Amy, let's see if I can get you louder. I don't know if I got you louder. I don't know if that's going to make a difference. Maybe, maybe not. But okay. Physically, you feel nauseated, that type of spin?
No, just my brain spinning.
Okay, so the thoughts.
Like physically, my brain is like twisting in my head.
Okay. Okay, so it goes back to the physical aspect. It feels like my head is spinning, meaning I could be nauseous. I could, if I let it. Now, see, it's not the same as an inner ear. You know, that inner ear thing that makes you nauseous. She knows this, so that's, again, she's starting to notice that something is causing my head to feel funky. Now, energetically, she's tuning in more and more about that situation. So it's like, okay, I'm going to look at this. Why is she spinning? It's different than spinning out. Now, they said that you have a deficiency of the way the energy is flowing. It doesn't mean that she's lacking. It just means it's not flowing. So there's a deficient aspect of what happens when people are overbearing. Now, this is to do with signatures. It could be the fact is that you could have somebody that has a particular signature of overbearing energy and somebody's triggered you. You could have watched a meme. You could have heard a person's voice. You could, whatever the trigger is, your body is going back to a certain point in time and saying, oh, shit. And how you responded at that age, you can be in an active response now. Or how I had to cope, handle, and deal and pacify that moment is that I had to spin out and not listen or any of this other stuff. She can be in an auto response. So where is she? She's in an auto response because she's like, when I see this personality, hear this personality, using your sensory system, then I know that I gave myself orders towards myself that I'm going to fail because they're overbearing and they're going to win. They're going to change my behavior. So I need to protect myself. So we can go in and say, okay, on a source point, they said, in this case, I'll pretend like you don't know this, but you got to work on your heart. Okay. So they're saying that they want you to do left side and they want you to go in. And so your heart is under your pinky and it's right there at the bend. And you're going to rub that 30 times. You're going to measure how you know the spinning is. You're going to measure how you feel the energy. And you're going to rub this 30 times and see what's happening. Now, you can have a quick result. And she just did. Okay, so what just happened was that I just shifted. Energetically, I can feel things. Now, am I in their space? No. The way I teach and the way that I have, Spirit has taught me is that I'm looking at a mirror. How I engage to the degree with that will be determined on me. It's a way that I observe and not absorb. So, how you feeling?
Much better, thank you.
All right. On a scale from 0 to 10, what number was it?
It was a good 8.
Okay.
And now it's 0.
Yeah. And when that spinning was happening, did it affect the way you think?
It not necessarily affects the way I think. It affects the way I see.
What about your hearing?
That didn't change.
Good. So she's learning on a more deeper scale how to tune in to her sensory system about how certain experiences, how the outside, the abstract, can affect her world, because her internal representation will come about based on all of her files, which is her beliefs, her decisions, her experiences. And because of all this, then the outside will trigger her. And it goes in and goes through all of the file system till she gets into an internal representation. And it's not always words. It can be a physical symptom, a physical response, because what if she doesn't have the ability to stop letting the overbearing energy affect her? Hello, Vicky.
So, have you ever had anyone, a healthcare professional or a physician even, as a client?
I have a lot of mental health people that come to me.
They're looking for a new perspective to integrate into their practice. And then what's the most interesting, you're going to answer that, but what's the second part? What's the most interesting career or vocation of a client that you've seen? So go ahead and answer your thing.
Well, a lot of people will come to me personally. They won't really about wanting to put it into their practice because they just want it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They know there's something else out there. Now, they haven't thought about taking it to that level. Now, there are some people that have, but this gets complicated because I just don't give out certain information like the hope therapy, the source point, little things, because you need to not be in your ego mindset when you're using them. And when you are working with people, there's a certain amount of ethics. You have to learn to respect that person's in. So you're not there to just fix them. You're there to help them fix themselves. So there's a lot of protocol that you would go through. But you can say to a person, hey, I'm going to suggest, and just a simple OMG, the tool that can help anybody. But most of the mental health people, what shocked me the most was that, oh yeah, I work in mental health and this and this and this. And now they are using it for themselves and they are seeing improvements. But normally it is people that are waking up that don't even, know that there's something else out there. It's anybody that has this urge that there's something more than this shithole of a life. Or I can't stop this pain and I need it to stop. I know there's something more.
So you might, basically what I'm hearing to some degree is that you're vetting other professionals who have a different profession from yours so that they don't get tempted to go off half-cocked and use things they've learned from you without really understanding the context of the application of what you're doing.
When it comes to my main things of tools that I use, they can use any tool they want. They can use it any way they want. But when it comes to my tools, I just don't give them the information. I want them to be prepared, and there are things that you need to understand. Yeah. It's like requirements before you take the next step.
Those are the same caveats that we have. I'm an occultist, as we've established in other shows, and I deal with heavily in the occult. That's my world. And I, occult means hidden. That's all it means, is I can't see it. So I have to figure out, how do I get to see it? That's the rub, because you don't get to see it because of every Yahoo out there, like the 100 million people we just spoke of a few moments ago, were able to get their hands on those loaded guns. Holy shit. The destruction they could, by simply using that level of energy incorrectly or to intentionally harm somebody, which could be done. So they don't get shown. You don't get to just know, even if you've been vetted and you've been studying a while. It takes a long time to finally get authorized past the gate where you get to know how to use those tools. And it seems like it's similar, what you're describing with the tools you use specifically, that it's similar. Like you only want certain people who've been prepared adequately and fully. Here's the thing.
If you give somebody, this is what everybody, why can't I just get there already? Well, when you give the information, I've seen people take something that's worth $1,000 and they go, it's just an email. You just were gifted $1,000 worth of information and you just think it's an email. They have no idea what they have in their hands. I've seen people that were in such ego state take some of this information and then started messing with some of their girlfriends' heads. And I said, that information is not meant for you to sit there and twist people.
Right.
And then you have what's, if you think about, if you really want to go into the hidden aspect, information came about how to use atoms. And we ended up creating a freaking atom bomb. It was meant to be, how do we use energy? How can we get free energy? And it was all about that level of consciousness out there that said, no, I am not in letting free energy. It's all about wanting to control. So where are we on this level of consciousness? And when we did decide to take that information, we twisted it. So how can we decide who is fair and who is just? Well, you don't. The thing is that if you're in alignment, I had brought this information out because I thought, oh, great, everybody could use this. And then all of a sudden it was just like, it was thrown on the floor like a piece of trash. I'm like, you don't know the value of this. And I'm a victim. I am a victim. I've done this too. People give me information because I am not at that level to connect, and they understand the value, but I'm not there yet. And so I will put it aside. And 5 years down the road, I'm like, oh my God, where have you been? And then all of a sudden I am now at the level to receive this and use it. But most of the time we don't understand. And then again, it's where are we on our level of consciousness? Do we need it now? Are we able to have our nervous system? Is it ready to receive? Are we going to keep rejecting? Where are we at?
Yeah.
So depends on the information. And it's not about vetting, you're right, you're just, I'm going to be judgmental. No, it is. I'm very much discerned. The fact is that if you're ready, you will get a ton of information. Most people will be so overwhelmed with what they hear, but it's not their consciousness I'm talking to. Their subconscious mind goes, ooh, let me absorb. And their superconsciousness is like, oh, hopefully she'll create better, or he'll create better. But the superconsciousness doesn't. It just waits.
But like you said, with the splitting of the atom, everybody's dreaming, Star Trek: The Next Generation, and what they got was Road Warrior, like scratching for, that half a bottle of water under the park bench, and you're going to shoot at each other for half an hour. And it's like, come on, people, we can do better. I mean,
right, but that's just where we're at the level of consciousness. And the more we develop ourselves on a spiritual level, there's a recipe to life: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And we keep thinking we only have to live physical, and spiritual is this thing other people control. And we're moving out of that. And as we start to take ownership, we can really allow ourselves to notice that when I'm teaching my class, I like to tell people, okay, what movie are you in? Who has the pen? Who's producing it? Who's acting it? Who's the protagonist? Why do you have all these other, And when you start to take ownership of that, maybe you're just stuck in an autopilot. Wait a minute, take the damn pen back. Take the pain, take the ego out of it. Remove the judgment, get in discernment, allow your collectiveness to help you can look and reflect with it, because your inner world creates these outer world of different rings out of all these different aspects of yourself you don't like or you do like. But look at life as a mirror and understand that you need to develop the emotional quotient, the mental quotient. And I'm not talking about intelligence. I'm talking about your definitions to life. I'm talking about that thought quality control. And when you have your physical body as a piece of shit and it's like falling apart, what spiritual aspect, what mental and emotional stuff is affecting the physical? Because energetically, your physically body has a beautiful blueprint. What changed the DNA, which is usually an emotional response? What changed is also that the emotional response will affect the thought processing, which changes the way your physical body is going to respond. Okay. And so there's a whole new theory that are coming out that was foo-fooed and now are becoming more mainstream, if that makes any sense. Now, I do want to comment here. LaRonda says, I have asthma, and one day I was having trouble breathing. Brenda gave me a few points to rub, and it helped me breathe. When I finally got into the doctors, I told the doctor I was rubbing these points, and that it helped me breathe. He said, it's a great point to rub. So in some cases, some doctors are agreeing, hey, if it's working for you, keep doing it. Whereas some level of consciousness of doctors was, what are you doing? I didn't give you that. I bumped into doctors that had said, oh no, take this. I don't know what you're doing there, but that's just, oh, that's foo-foo. But right there, she just said, her doctor said, oh, well, that's a great point to rub. So people are learning that there's more to the story than having to say this is just the limitations.
Susie and I are in a group that's sponsored by the local hospital, and it's a Zoom meeting. It's once a week, and it's for chronic condition or chronic pain or whatever, which is certainly me. And one of the things they talked about today that I had a hand in bringing up, but it was the same thing you just spoke about, which is how does your attitude play into how this is going to go? And what the point I brought up was, and some people may have noticed that I tend to bring up darker aspects that don't appear like I'm trying to be hopeful. But the reason I do it is because you can't fix things that are in the light. They're fine. The things that are in the dark are what need fixing. So that's where I go. So it looks like, here comes Debbie Downer. But really what I'm doing is I'm slogging waist deep into the manure to get to whatever it is that's in the manure, to get it out of there. And I brought up the point in the meeting, they were talking about gratitude, which is a trigger for me. It's a trigger for my wife too. Because, people start talking about gratitude, and sometimes it's just a reflexive word. They're not even thinking about it. And many times in the past, and not so much the past, but the present, people start talking about gratitude, and it rubs me the wrong friggin' way. Because I'm like, what do I have to be fucking grateful for? I'm crippled. I've lost this. I've lost that. I've lost this. This person has died. All the dark shit, all the shit that would make you depressed, all the, fuck you. What am I grateful for? Show me. But there's also the other side of it, which is, well, yeah, but you've got all these things that you do have access to. You've got all these other options. You've got all these people in your life that don't hate you. They're there for you, and so forth and so on. There are things about your life that are positive and that you can be grateful for. And my other point was, and I think I've brought this up to you before in the past, way back in the past, is, well, who am I grateful to? And I really put you on the spot. No, it's not rhetorical. I want you to tell me, who the fuck am I grateful to? And you said, just in general, to the universe. The universe is this. This is your situation. What is it about it that's positive? What is it about it that holds opportunity? And just be thankful that that's the case. Yes, all this other shit sucks, but that's not all of who you are.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And sometimes that's hard to see. That's hard to see sometimes. Here's
a question. Who are you grateful to? Why does there have to be a to? What are you grateful for? Okay, so here's the thing. When I'm helping people to understand how be thankful for, don't use gratitude. Gratitude represents, have you received? You're saying that you don't know that if you've ever received anything good. Gratitude is about receiving. And if you change the definition of this, I am grateful. I am grateful for this opportunity to sit here and actually talk to people, to talk to you, to talk to people, to get this message out and create this movement. I am thankful for this opportunity, but I am grateful because I received it. It's here. It's now. And what does that do to the body? What does it do to the brain? It helps you predict that, hey, I can receive, because we have been taught by this old paradigm is that it's better to give than to receive. And in order to understand the cause and effect, you have got to keep that balanced. And if you don't keep it balanced, you're going to create undue karma. Means karma is balanced. But when you take and say, no, because this is my belief, then you are going to have to balance that out, which means you're going to have to create little bitch slaps, or you're going to have to create a certain situation to be in to help you open up to the kaleidoscope of perspectives. If you're only looking at this and you can't see the rest, you're going to keep looking at this and you can't see the rest. You kind of can see the repeat, right? Why do you take to wake your ass up?
Why do you think people eventually started referring to or thinking about karma as a scorecard, good karma or bad karma? You're going to heaven or you're going to hell, that kind of thing. It's like, I've done bad things, so I have bad karma, or I've done good things, so I have good karma. And really that's like saying, my fish stole my car. It doesn't even make sense.
Level of consciousness. Okay, let's just go there. How many, on a soul level, there is no time. Let's just play with this. But if you have to play in this hologram called Earth, you're talking about having to take an evolutionary time span. So over 23,000, go through the whole zodiac, and then it flips over, and you're talking about levels of growth. Now, we wanted to know what love is. How do you find on a soul level what love is? You can only buy what it isn't. Again, when I said you don't know what you have in your hands is a gem until you find out that you need it, you want it, you can appreciate it, So you have to go to the extreme of, oh my God, and you're just bitching about life. And then all of a sudden you come to this and you're like, I had this already, but I didn't understand it. But this created a parameter. So I can actually begin to know when I go here, I know I'm here because I was there. And when you start to create these parameters, you learn a deep appreciation for understanding what is love. What is it? So you need both sides. Okay, you need the dark, you need the light, you need it. There's the shadow. There is good, there's gems in the dark. But when you separate yourself from that light source and you go deeper into that level of hell, and you're going back and forth, what if I try this? What if I just kill everybody? You're going to have to find out, what does it mean if everybody killed you? So how many lifetimes does it take for you to get that other perspective?
But those gems can be people too, right?
Oh, everything. You're talking about different things, okay? Gems are what helps you create this awakening and this awareness, so you can evolve away from that one perspective on the kaleidoscope. You're starting to see more. You are getting wisdom now. Okay, we are so much pushing the cause out, and the cause is pushing in, and because it's pushing that, you can never get the wisdom. But if you stand in the cause and you understand the effects, you start to get the wisdom. So when you're sitting there and your karma is off, I gotta go save so-and-so, I have to save him because that's the right thing to do, you're going to tip your cause and effect, you're going to tip it out of balance. Because you're taking their right to grow, because, I'll do everything for you. Well, they don't know how to do anything for themselves. So you just created undue karma towards yourself, and they have to deal with their karma. They have to balance out what they didn't learn. Now, if you're going to sit there and if you're going to do mean things and you're going to come back and have to pay for it in that sense of karma, then what it is that it's a level of your state of mind. So heaven and hell are states of mind. So if you're going in and you only want to think of dark shit, okay, that means you need to start learning about the light, right? Well, if you sit there and you get stuck and you want to focus only on the dark and that level of thinking, that nocebo effect, that level of fear, then you are going to choose How many times do you want to do this? How many different ways in fear do you want to do this? This is like the endless loop, because you're talking about the quantum field of perspective. So if you are going and exploring in the negative health, oh God, this is, yeah. Ooh, and then you die and you recycle. Why haven't you let that go? It's like when you have an OMG, oh my God, and this bad thing happens and you leave a certain amount of your life force or soul force out there to doom to repeat it because you can't wake up from it. Then you're going to keep repeating because you can't wake up from it. You're going to keep repeating. And what state of mind is that usually in? Depression is a state of hell. Okay. Panic is a state of hell. But when you can help people to take and own the fact that they don't have to push the cause away and the cause is not pushing at them, but they allow themselves to stand in the cause and effect, take that power of responsibility, and learn to resolve those thoughts by resolving the emotions, their head becomes clear. The flow of energy becomes stronger, and their nervous system helps them to balance out that they don't need to constantly be in this retaliation, hate, resentment, because all of a sudden they're like letting that shit go. Then all of a sudden, as they let that shit go, which they couldn't do before, but they're letting it go now and they're taking the wisdom with them, they get to evolve. As they begin to evolve, then all of a sudden their karma starts to balance out. You don't have to go into, oh, I did bad things and therefore I'm going to have to pay more, because if you keep doing this and doing this, you're never going to get to the light. You are collecting different perspectives on this kaleidoscope of life. You are choosing, as you open up your catalog of life, when you're deciding what kind of soul I want to be. Oh, look, I haven't learned how to die this way. That looks like fun. I mean, you've seen Groundhog Day.
Okay, she went away. I don't know why. It wasn't me.
If he knows that I'm okay. Not sure what happened, but I'm back.
It's your government. They don't like you. They're after you.
Oh, that's such a bullshit.
You know where the concept of hell first originated? I can tell you, historically speaking, that outside of the walls of Jerusalem, the original Jerusalem, was this slope, the like a gully, and it was where everything got thrown to be burned, and it was so used for so long that it always had this undercurrent or this smoldering underbelly underneath it that it was never extinguished. So it always would burn whatever was thrown there, because the more you threw there, the more fuel it had. And you would see, like, rib cages and, skeletal remains of animals, or, sick dead people, or, any manner of things that would show you death, right? Because death, that was where death was. And that was where the fires were. And that was where you didn't want to go there because it smelled, and there was like a sulfur smell, and there was, rotting flesh smell, and there was just a bad place. Its name was hell. And it was, back then it was HEL. The first Anglicanized version of it was HEL. And so in the Scandinavians to this day refer to it as hell, HEL. That was where it came from. And so later, when the writings were taking place that became canon, that they would refer to heaven and hell, the antithesis of down in the gully and the burning, crap heap was up there in the sky, where it was beautiful and bright and blue skies and sunny and clouds, and there were no soldiers with swords, and there were no poor people, and there was no pestilence, and it was the sky. It was wonderful. Look how clean that is. If only we could live like that. And so the concept, that two-dimensional concept of heaven and hell was pretty much born in those days, a long time ago, that later on it got rolled into, the whole the story that we were sold, which was, there's heaven and there's hell, which you're kind of going, what you're teaching here is you're going back to that original concept of hell is as you see it, as you create it. And so is heaven. So it kind of does away with when you die, you were a good person. Your karma is, you got lots of extra points. So you're going to heaven, or you suck and you were a bad person. So you're going to hell.
Well, in certain cultures, they even have the idea is that you can kill everybody all you want. And then all of a sudden, just before you die, you do this one act of kindness and then you go to heaven. But the point is that if you have a level of thinking and you can learn how to change that level of consciousness, you can actually create an ascension. It doesn't matter what you did on earth. If you have a great awakening and you realize that the wisdom that you're standing in has nothing to do with right or wrong, good or bad, you can get these great epiphanies to the point where you can create a level of ascension with your consciousness. And it's not about having to pay back or to balance out. But we're here on a journey. It is the journey. It's not the destination. It's the journey. We want to wake up. One of the things that I remember is like we have soul groups, okay? And the soul group wasn't moving. And they thought, they show me, okay, so out of the 144, let's say 10 are born. Let's take out of the 144 all our issues and throw them on those 10 people. And these people live notorious lives. Oh my God. And the soul group didn't move. After eons and eons, if you want to measure it, there wasn't a great epiphany. Well, what if all of a sudden the soul that gets born works only on their shit? What happened? That means they didn't have to take on the whole group. When they started to resolve and they started to wake up, they created an ascension within themselves, no matter how small, and it made the group move because it created that the collective wave was that everybody started to benefit from their evolution. This is why when I'm healing myself, I know I'm healing you, I'm healing Amy, I'm helping heal that because it's a collective thing. So when I see people taking and empowering themselves and healing and resolving out of their hells, I know that they just helped me as well. So, and humanity, which I can turn around and say, thank you for that evolution. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it's like you're talking about a hive mind, kind of. Sort of, like where you affect one, you affect them all. Where you do something, it affects the rest in the group. Which is like a matrix, literally the definition of a matrix.
Right. And we create our own matrices individually, as a group, as a whole. And you can choose how you want to change those. The more you awake, the more you can realize that doesn't have to be all of these limitations. Because when you make a decision and you feel like that's set in concrete and stone, it becomes a limited decision because it no longer serves you. But you don't know how to resolve from it. Then you're bound by this, and you got chains that are not attached, but you feel like you're in prison. But if you begin to evolve from that limited decision and take out what no longer serves, out of your thinking, out of your feeling, out of the fact that you are grabbing that wisdom and growth, you can then create a movement within yourself. So, yeah, the ripple effect. Exactly. Everybody enjoying this different side of me, I think. So now we have somebody in here. You have to decide whether you want to participate. And it's, what is her name? Lane. Deriva Lane. I've never heard or seen you before, so I'm curious. If you want a 1-minute read or just a read, I can go longer than that, then just let me know. Say yes, please, and I will give you a read.
Deborah's good people. She's somebody that I converse with fairly regularly. She's She has a lot of insight, very artistic. She's, I think you'd enjoy her.
Cool. But one of the how I read, just so that you understand what am I getting myself into. See, I could read Steve, but I'm going to respect the fact that if he wants one, great. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But that's up to him. Now, what I'm going to tell you would be decide how you wanted to look at it. I have seen people that are so new at this, they can't seem to put the dots together, but yet what's familiar? What I say is, what is it familiar? And when you're thinking of it, it's not about in the consciousness. It's always to do with the past. Yeah, that shit happened before. And if you're saying, yeah, that happened before, understand there's the root. That's what I'm reading. And that is where you got power loss too. So you have a choice of deciding to keep thinking the same way, or can you resolve it out? And it's usually, yes, I want to, but how do you do it? And that's where the tools. So if you go to my website, medicinewomansolution.weebly.com, look under healing tools, all of those are free. You just have to apply them. You just have to not reject them. Oh, that didn't work. But chances are it did. You just haven't learned how to create the parameters to know that you've had some growth.
What's that website again?
medicinewomansolution.weebly.com.
Okay.
Is it okay for me to post it in the comments, Steve?
Hey, it's there for everybody to use. Go for it.
Well, thank you very much for the permission. And thank you, Amy, for asking. So.
Okay, Deborah says, sure, why not?
Okay, so. All right, I'm not seeing it, but anyway, doesn't matter.
It's in the chat there. I can see it. I don't know if you can.
Well, it's weird. I don't see it.
Might be a delay. Do you see where Amy typed in your URL?
Oh, there it is. Well,
Yeah,
my screen's really tiny, so now I see it. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So, like for instance, when okay, let me just tell you before I read. How do I read? I don't pull it out of thin air. I go up to the bandwidth and I've connected to that energy, and then as I start to read the energies that come down, there are a lot of your loved ones that will come through. But I don't usually spend a lot of time of just talking to your loved ones, because you're going to miss the thing that they and everything else wants is they want you to evolve. So a lot of times they'll just sit in the background, give the information, but it's not only that. I can read energy cords. As these energy cords go out, that is where I get the information. And if I miss anything, usually they'll start talking to me, and that is your loved ones. So we're just going to start off. And they said there was a hysterical moment that you encountered at 1 year old. Now, well, usually when I tell people like, I don't remember when I was 1, you don't have to, because fractal times, you will get to repeat this again. So you'll be able to look back through your life. And if I said, well, pull up one that has something similar. They said when you were around 19 is something that you did toward yourself, and that you contracted a lot of your energy that has to do with contempt of others. And it's like, this is the energy that was in your space. And so then how did you respond to it when people just act with contempt? So towards you, they said that, again, you contracted your energy. And it's like, where did your happy go? There seemed to be this lack of control when a certain amount of signatures of this particular contempt was there. So your body will respond as you got older. They said you stored it so deeply inside your body that it created some type of response. And you may or may not be aware of that it's doing it. But the auto response is based on having excess bully energy in your space. When you have this excess bully energy in your space, there's a part of you that wants to avoid these people. That's just your reaction. But if you have to be around it, your body goes into this repressed feeling. And how does it show up is that it makes it so that you don't want to be compatible, or you want to be compatible. Like they're showing me that if you go into a space, your body may all of a sudden create a certain amount of excess gas. It's like Pavlov's dog. It is trained to the condition. So, for instance, in Pavlov's dog, it had to do with as soon as he heard a bell, he'd salivate. It's the time of the day, it would salivate. If the smell, it salivated. We can put ourselves in a condition that every time I'm around this person, I'm going to get sick. Or every time we may not be aware, but the body is always responding and protecting and alarming. And this is how you processed and coped and dealt with it. If I ask go a little deeper, they said, well, there's all of this. What? So interesting choice of words is that they said self-resentment. And when I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, they said your inner world, the inner energy, the frequency drops. They said there's a certain amount of self-loathing that you do with your thinking that allows you to, and you know what self-loathing is, hopefully. And there's a certain amount of denigration if you really want to know about it. When you're communicating and you're out of sync with somebody, do you have a tendency to denigrate yourself while you're having a conversation with them? That's the one thing you look at. They're showing me, so many different things. Oh, God.
Is this all Deborah's reading?
Yes. My body's going into a state of panic. Whew. But it's short-lived, but it is part of how it's hooked into the body. Okay. So there's just a ton of information here, and seeing it's hard when you don't get the feedback, but I don't know if because it's the first time, usually people may not understand it. So you ask questions and I can answer it. When people are like, well, I can't get connected to that, I can help you go in that space.
She just said, oh dear.
Is that good or bad?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Says, oh dear.
Well, see, this is why I like to talk,
Ask me these hard questions. I didn't know there was going to be a quiz.
Come on now. You're supposed to be a man that knows it all. Come on now.
Oh, God. Here we go. Here we friggin' go.
Interesting. I just made my necklace pop.
You could pop her voice on Zoom, couldn't you? She said, I'm doing much better now.
What does that mean? And see, and that's the thing. I'm just curious of, if we wanted to talk to you.
You can ask Deborah if she wants to go live with her voice.
If you want to go live with your voice, here's the thing. We can make it happen. There's several ways of making it happen. I just popped my necklace, Amy.
Oh, no.
Well, I'm just going to give it up. I'm just going to give that up. That's funny. So there's, if you wanted to, complex history, but did any of it resonate? Was any of it familiar?
She said she's viewing you on her phone. I don't think that doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, it does when you try to call in because you ain't going to be able to. If you won't be able to see certain things. Sorry, I need to put something around my neck.
No, but she's viewing you on her smartphone. Wouldn't she still be able to view you on Zoom on her phone?
As long as she has the Zoom app on her phone.
Yeah, I'm not sure she has the Zoom app. That would be the question. Yeah.
Okay, so again, that can be very complicated because if she was like, for instance, can you find me on my personal thing? Amy could turn around and say, here's her personal link. So could you do that, Amy? Find my personal page, put it up there. She hits accepts as friend. She's
turning on her computer so she can make this easier to happen.
Okay, because we can make it happen to make her voice appear. Then once she becomes friends with, and then I can go ahead and call her or she can call me. And then I just have to open up the line in order for communication to happen.
Deborah, the producer, Amy, is in the background here, and she's going to make, she can see you. And as your computer gets booted up and running, she's going to help you connect with Brenda as friends so that you can then connect with your voice and then get the reading much more spontaneously than by using text. That's what's going on.
Yeah. But in the meantime, while we're waiting, I got to get the right screen. There.
I don't have a producer. How do you have a producer?
Well, she's my moderator, but, she wants a new title. Maybe. She wanted to be in this world. She says, you know what? I like what you do. And I was looking for a guinea pig in the sense of the word is can you allow yourself to be vulnerable with the public in such a way that they can see your growth? And she said, yes. I said, wonderful. And then the next thing you know, she's like, ooh, you don't have a moderator. Can I help? I said, sure. And then the next thing you know, she's stuck. She's willing to get up at the crack ass of dawn to help me do my one show. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to lose her.
That's the same question they asked me when I went into porn. Can you be vulnerable in front of the public? And I'm like, well, I guess so.
All right, Steve. We understand your values. That's fine.
my values.
What's important to you, right, dude?
What's important? What?
Yeah. So.
Well, but you know what really is important to me is humor.
Yes. Oh,
I mean,
humor.
I'm always making fun of, like, even things that people think you shouldn't make fun of. I will be the one to do it because I think it's important. I really do. I think on a spiritual level, even. And that was a lesson. That was one of the very first lessons that was taught to me when I joined a large group of pagans, and I went to my first. For me, it was the first, big open gathering that was on one of the holy days, and it was at the beach, and we were doing this Beltane festival, and there was this.
Hold on, I sent you a friend request. Just like it, and then we can jump in and start to do the next part. Okay, sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
That's fine. No, that's fine. And then so, there was a ceremony going on, and the person that I was with, who was kind of sort of my de facto mentor. They asked him to do, like, can you do this part of the ceremony? He said, sure. And instead of doing I beseech thee, blah, 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 he said, hey, west, the direction of the watchtower of the west. Hey, west, water. Yeah. See ya. And everybody's like, that's not how you do that. He's like, it's how I do it. And everybody started laughing. And I'm like, dude, is this how it always goes? And he's like, yeah, we don't take it too serious. The intention's there. The love is there. Everything is where it should be, and we value the fact that you can laugh and still have reverence. And to me, that was an epiphany. Like, holy shit, you shouldn't have told me that, because I'm going to let loose with this, and I have. So humor is a big part of who's funny. I'm funny. Funny how? Funny strange, or funny ha ha? Do I amuse you?
I guess whatever floats your boat, right?
It's from Goodfellas. You didn't see that scene? Joe Pesci?
Yeah. But
do I amuse you?
You did an activating voice earlier. I was going to ask you who it was. So we almost got her in just 1 second. As soon as I...
Yeah, she'll be set right up in a minute here.
Two more seconds. Now, I'm going to call you with video. You do not have to get on with video. It'll be something you see with me.
Yeah, you'll see her, she'll see you, but we'll only be able to hear you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But you don't have to even have to have the video with me if you don't want. There's a lot of people that don't want to.
In case anyone's wondering, this is seltzer. I'm not drinking alcohol. This is just water. So, in case anyone cares.
Okay, I don't know what the sparkles are. What's
Sparkle?
happening? Tap to return call ringing. Okay, so I don't know if she's aware of the fact that the messenger is calling.
You'll figure it out in a minute.
Well, it's calling, but she's not answering. So I'm trying to figure that out.
It could be as simple as the mouse is crappy or something. She can't quite click on it yet.
Right,
Could be a lot of things.
I hung up. I'll just wait until she calls. I'll call again, or she'll return my call. So when she's ready. That's fine. But there is options. There is a way of doing things. There's always a third option somewhere along the way. See that? Hi, can you hear me? Hello? What's happening?
I can hear something.
She hung up.
She
I
hung
don't
up.
think the volume was working properly or something.
Yeah, could be.
But we'll see.
She's in the great state of Pennsylvania.
Ah, Pennsylvania. Gotcha. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this. There's a lot of, I mean, when you're choosing a lot of information to study and to learn, I let spirit help. What do you call it? Sculpt me, develop me. It's a power of choice. It was my choice, and it has nothing to do with is it the devil, is it the spirit? It's not about that. It's looking at the quantum field through the fact that you are a level of consciousness. And when you do this, you can connect into a bandwidth of energy that can help you to come in alignment. Okay, can you hear me now? Hello?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear it.
Yay!
All right.
Okay, good. Let me get the volume down on this. Sorry, I'm getting feedback here because I'm on the phone.
That's fine.
Okay. So.
All right, what I said so far, did it make any sense?
Yes, very much so. Okay, there we go. Now I've got my computer down so I can talk to you directly. Yes, it made very good sense. I got married when I was 19.
Aha. Okay. So
that probably explains that portion of the program.
Right. And so what I'm doing again is just the energy is there. I didn't invade any space. It's the stuff that's there. You got 5 people from the other side that are here, and they're all waving, and they but they
wave back.
Yeah, they're sitting in like when they're looking at this, they're looking at it as they have a studio. So the non-fleshies are over there. The spirits, spirit guides are over here. But anyways, these 5 are in agreement that the energy that happens is that you get affected by broadcast energies. People will come in with their energies and throw it around, and your body responds in a certain way.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So there's a male here, and he feels like he's the closest to you. Now, the joke is that I don't ever hear names, but if I know if it's a male, they're like, oh, call me George. And so he just said, call me George. And okay, so he's definitely a male. And he says, but you have anxiety. He says, I've watched you've had it for years. And you have learned how to control a certain amount of the anxiety. And oh God, my whole body. Now here's the other thing. My body is starting to pick up. I don't even know if you realize where the anxiety hits the most, but it's really affecting over in this part of my body to the point where. So do you have anxiety? Are you aware of it?
Yes, ma'am. I have inherited anxiety, and I can manufacture my own.
Yeah. This is more of an inherited one. God bless it. When it comes, don't worry, I'm not getting hurt. My body is noticing how the depths of shit, bitch. Oh, sorry. Tourette's will come out too accidentally. Okay.
That's
so
okay. That's okay. I do not say anything I haven't said. It's all good.
The expanded energy goes out. Okay. So every time you try to expand your energy out, it's like somebody has to come in your space and put you back in your place. It's not
yes, ma'am.
You do. Okay. But you can resolve from it. You can help your body, but your body's like, I've been overwhelmed for such a long time. Inherited means it's the epigenetic is that your mom and dad, the sperm and the egg, whatever bullshit they couldn't handle came together, out pops you. So whatever the emotion that they couldn't handle, now your soul says, oh, this is what I signed up for. This is what I want to work through. And if I look at this anxiety, what is this really about? And they said it has to do with feeling worthless, to the point where there is actually a story that you could follow, like your behavior is the same behavior as they have. You can see it through time. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
It was nature and nurture.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Got you. Okay. Woo. Okay. So then they said that.
I know, I'm sorry to do this to you.
No. That, like I said, it's not a big deal. but there's habits that came out of it. And they said when you were growing up, they had this condition. Okay, the condition is what everybody has, but you picked up by looking, oh, that's how you're supposed to act. Oh, that's how you're supposed to be. So there's a habit. Okay, they said that the one particular habit, it's vibrational and it changes the way that your body resonates. So, you know, when you take like two pendulum clocks and they're swinging completely different, all of a sudden they will get in sync.
Sure.
So in order for you to make calm and peace, that means you put on a hat, you played a role in the family. You know, some people take the role of being a savior, a healer. I have to be responsible. Nobody else is. I have to be the comedian. So there's different roles we all have to play. You kind of already knew what kind of role you're meant to play, didn't you?
Yeah.
And so towards yourself, they said an auto response, which creates and supports this habit. Now, if I'm looking at the auto response, not only do you have to contract your energy, but you repressed a particular emotion and caused you then to go into what's called like alexithymia, which is the inability to be able to describe the moment, to describe the feeling, describe it. And so all of a sudden it is a feeling, it's a weird state. You know, it's like you can't put your finger on it type feeling. But you know it quite well. That's how you maneuver it. If you just shut that part to yourself down and went about the business, you would be able to survive it. Yes.
Right. Compartmentalization is good.
Yes. Now, what's interesting as you got older, you began, the players in your movie, like mom and dad, are not there in that space. And no matter if they're alive or dead, you created somebody to have similar personality.
Yes.
Okay. Now understand this.
A different personality, but yes, control.
There you go. This follows the signature. Okay. So it doesn't matter who the player is. You know, you remember the old soap operas. Today, Susan Lucci's being played by Brenda Power, you know, but it's the same character and all this. But okay. So the thing is so the different person will come and show up into your space. And why? Well, our inner world creates our outer world, and you had a certain amount of loss. Now, they're saying this control thing. They're saying at 3 years old, the outside proved to be much because there came some heavy-handed energy. I don't know exactly the best way to define that for you, but you as a child saw that. Okay. But that was supposed to be the natural way of how you correct children, because everybody was doing it. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
But you also came in as this light being that said, I'm not doing that to my kids. Did you decide that when you got older, I'm not doing this to people?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, very much. Definitely.
Yeah. So you decided as, you know, and as a soul, like, I'm not doing this, and which is fine. But now all of a sudden my nerves, if you start seeing me shake, don't be surprised. I feel like your nervous system is constantly in a stress mode because it doesn't want to stop. I mean, it literally is making me feel, Jesus. No, just give me a second. You have to behave a certain way. And so you literally will begin to feel yourself morph when that signature is in the space before they even appear. Oh, they'll be home at 5 o'clock. 4:30. I'm starting to change into a different personality to suit whoever it is in your space. Does this make sense?
It does indeed.
And for years, you just thought that was a natural process of how we have relationships. And now over time, you're like, oh my God, I'm living in an auto response. And your body's so used to doing it.
Yes.
It's taken a toll on you to some degree. You're kind of getting tired. There's a part of me that feels tired. And I'm like looking at this, and they said that, sorry. Okay, we're going back to the nerves. This is really, so if you have good nerves or bad nerves, how do you check your nerves? What would you say? Dang.
Checking my nerves. Don't really. have to say there's been a paradigm shift in my life in just the last few weeks. My husband passed away in April. Okay. I am going back to the person I was for a short period of time.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying myself a lot. So right now, not too many nerves.
Yay,
you know?
great.
So.
You know what I'm talking about, though. Okay, so
yes,
you can
ma'am.
Okay, because the part of me is that even though I see it over here on my side, this is where the liver and the gallbladder and the large, and all this whole area, all of the intestines and on this area.
Right.
And what's interesting is that they really want to point out that you no longer have to procrastinate with your life anymore. Do you understand?
Correct.
And they're showing
yes.
me that because you don't have to procrastinate, that demoralization is starting to come to an end, which means
right.
you get to connect, you get to have your heart involved. And there's a part of you that says, does this panic serve me anymore? But there are things that you have in your house, things that you do in routine, like going out. Maybe you went to the same restaurant. Your body will go into familiarity. It will be triggered. So when you go outside and you go to do something, be aware of the fact is that your body says, shit, is he here? Oh, shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when you...
And luckily, I'm not having much of that. So.
Yay. Yay. It looks like the kitchen was one of the major aspects of control issues. I don't understand why, but there's something to do with a particular part. And I don't know if you've got a little kitchenette set within the kitchen or if there's some area. I don't know what that is.
We remodeled the kitchen in January of the previous year.
Okay.
Pretty much his specifications, which I was fine with. His specifications. We worked on it together. It was good. But
okay.
He's probably very attached to that. That's probably you're hearing that from.
Because it's very interesting. Hold on.
When I did a remote view, that was the area of the house that I was drawn to first, was the kitchen.
Right. Yes, it was.
Okay. Now, I don't know whose this is, but something about fear of being alone. And
fear of being alone.
Right. Now, this is not about you. No, this is not about you. Because they're saying that the energies. But I think what I'm feeling is he's right here, but I'm not able to. It's like he didn't want to be looked at. It's weird because I can't look.
He was a narcissistic person. Okay.
Now inside,
he was a benevolent.
Oh.
He didn't have a mean bone in his body. I'll put it that way.
Right.
But he was narcissistic.
Right. There's something about inside. Okay, I got to figure this out because, again, he won't let me look at him, but I know he's directly in front of me. Yes. Okay, so now what we're going to do is read something about him. He was afraid to be a certain part of a lofty person, but he knew that this is how you're supposed to be a man. So there was that's part of where he learned about being narcissistic, okay, that you're supposed to act this way. You're supposed to be this way. You're saying, you know what I'm saying? But he had a little, did he have a little OCD to some degree?
No, he was more on the ADD thing, but he was very much about control. Very much about control. The man was constantly calculating. His brain never stopped calculating, and often it was maneuvering people.
Yes.
Not just me, but everyone. Not just me, but everyone.
But that was also a little OCD. Without realizing it, he had to control, or he was going to, and he knew this is the right way to be, this is the wrong way to be. So he developed that I'm a nice guy to some degree.
Right.
In the remote view, he wouldn't let his perspective of where he quote unquote was be inside the house. While I was viewing, he stayed outside on the walkway.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I was telling Deborah, it was at night, I was trying not to freak her out, but I was saying there's somebody outside on that walkway who's looking in, who is connected to you somehow, that, very much wants to see and won't come in, and you're not in danger or anything, but he wouldn't come in. He could have.
Well, are you okay with the fact that he's standing behind you right now?
Oh, yes.
He says to you,
he's on the mantle. Yeah. He's on the piano behind me.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So do you understand?
The ashes are there.
Yeah, but he's directly has his hand on your chair right now, and he says, "I appreciate you putting up with so many years." Because he's gone through what's called a life review, and he says, in life review is not seeing what he done, just what he done. He was in your shoes, seeing how he was perceived from himself. And he says,
he'd done that 100 years ago.
Yeah, and he says it's interesting how, he also understands why you both chose each other. Okay, he says, but wow, you put up with a lot. Okay, and he wants to thank you for all that. He says now he just wants you to live and expand. Okay?
Well, tell him thank you.
He hears
I appreciate it, and I fully intend to. He's
been wanting to help. Now he's been bringing people to you. I don't know if you understand what that is. It's like all of a sudden some people will out of the blue talk to you, or some people will want to connect with you.
Yeah, I'm finding a little bit of that, and I was finding it peculiar because being the type of person I am, I'm skeptical. As I told Steve, I trust no one,
Oh, gosh,
And people say they want to suddenly come and say, oh, I want to start walking with you. And so it's like, okay, great, but I'm questioning the motivation.
Right.
Why?
And he says, it's hard to let your guard down. He says, but I don't want you to be alone. Oh, that's what he meant by being alone. He doesn't want you to be alone. He knows you're not, because you've been alone in that marriage. His presence of him really wasn't present. He says you were kind of alone all this time. He says, and I don't feel like I want you to be alone. I want you to be able to live, meaning that's probably why he keeps showing me that he's like, he'll send little energy waves, and people will like, oh, they'll think of you, they'll come to you, or they'll out of the blue, and you're like, what? Because you've been on guard all this time. And I don't know if you were allowed to have friends. I'm not saying it in that way. There's a part of you that just restricted yourself from having a particular.
The problem was, as I told someone after he passed, people who knew me alone knew me. People who knew him alone knew him.
Right.
People who knew us together knew him. So, because he had that sort of personality.
Yes. Wanting
and
you to
back
expand.
to, I'm on the shy side from my upbringing. So
exactly. But it's time, he's hoping that you'll actually feel people's presence. You'll feel that you can open up your heart to expand. Now, what I'm going to help you understand is that you can just get a reading like this, or you can learn to start putting your hand over your heart and say, do I really want to walk with these people? And when you ask that question to your heart will actually help you get more into alignment with the goodness of who you are. So if your head is going, well, I don't know if I should or shouldn't, going indecisive, just kind of start to bring your awareness to your heart. Place your hand over your heart. I want to go walking with this person. No. Okay, I don't. You're going to learn to begin to trust yourself. Okay. But they said that the other part is that I can't trust people. I think people have an agenda. You can put that belief on a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being, oh yeah, that's what I do. And you're going to pull up all of these. Yeah, there's a time. It's called proof. If you were just to put your hand on your forehead, you're touching the top, you're covering the hairline, and you're making sure you touch your forehead. If you were to do this, you wrote it down, yeah, it's a big fat 10, and you just think, allow yourself to feel and think. What happens is you leave it there for a certain amount of time, your thoughts and your emotions will begin to calm down. When that happens, you stay there until you really feel like, is it still there? Yeah, okay, keep going. Okay, you know what? I don't know. I don't think it's there. And then you can take your hand off. And what happens is clarity starts to come in. The emotions get to calm down. And you don't have to keep putting the energy. Your inner world creates your outer world. You don't have to keep attracting people to prove that you're right based on all of those thoughts, memories, and proof. You get to dissolve those.
Understood.
And when you dissolve those, then all of a sudden your inner world will start attracting healthier people. And then you won't have to keep going there. And then when you're like, oh, I still feel that, but you can feel it on a different level. You go back to the drawing board and you can do this, getting it down to 0. This is a slower method, but it'll be one of the go-tos because my students are like, oh my God, I was losing my shit today. I decided to forget it and just went there. And the next thing you know, they calmed down. They didn't have to think those thoughts. And the emotion pushed aside that they were actually owned their power again. And they got up and they go, you know what? I don't have to do this. You know, if you want to fight, you go ahead, do it without me. I'm out of here. Or I saw them as being mean, but you know what? I don't have to invest my energy. I don't have to do this. It gives you the power of choice back. Okay.
I appreciate that. I was interested in that when you were mentioning it previously. I was thinking, oh, I need to try that.
Right.
I always have this certain level of curiosity, so I sort of lead people and, you know, do a little probing before I just dismiss totally.
Right.
But,
yeah. But you can also take those views, those filters will always pop up because you are going to see all of these signatures and you're like, but if you calm this down, what happens is that your energy is going to make these people just move away as you move into a different direction. And you can start coming more aligned with the joy that we're hardwired for, and suffering is just an option. Does this make sense?
Okay, I like it, yes.
Okay, and there's more and more tools. You know, so if you go to my website, they're free. You know, you look under healing tools and you'll see all of these tools. And if you feel like you know, somebody, let's say somebody just got in your face and made you feel like shit and you just feel all your energy is like, God, there's something called pick yourself off the floor. And what you do is you read how to do it. And usually it is to recognize things as color and put it back in your body. When you start to pick up your energy and you put it back in your body, instead of just leaving it hang out there, you're creating closure to this particular shit that's happening. You're creating closure and you're making yourself so you're less vulnerable. And I'm going to tell you one more thing that you can do is that there's tons of things you can do. Celtic weave, Wayne Cook, and connecting heaven and earth. But if you were just put your finger in your forehead and put your finger in your belly button, push in and lift up and smile. The smile will start producing, the body will think, oh, she's happy, start producing those chemical peptides of joy. This process connects the two energies that are on the outside. The energy that goes from our butt crack all the way up to the top part of our lip is what's called the governing meridian. And when that's down, you'll start to feel more paranoid. You will start to feel other people's energies, and you'll start, you know, and you're like, and then if this one, because it starts from the taint area and comes all the way up to the bottom of the chin, if this one starts to go down, this one makes you feel like you're more vulnerable. Okay, so if you're driving in the car and this egg is down, you're going to get mad. You're going to start getting road rage because you're going to start absorbing the shit that may not even be aimed at you. And when the ones that are aimed at you, oh yeah, that's going to be an adventurous tale. So you do this. And you stay there for a few minutes. And what happens is you start creating the energies to connect, communicate. So you become less paranoid. Actually, you don't even have to be paranoid. Then you don't have to be vulnerable. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So there's a lot.
That's very interesting. I like that.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do. So did you feel like you got anything out of this reading?
I did indeed. And you are right on across the board. So I want to give you that, you know.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I did very much. And in a way, you reinforced things I was starting to figure out and gave me tools to make it maybe faster. So thank you.
Good. You're welcome. And please, I want you to evolve. I want you to have a happy life. So does he, because you deserve it now. You've as he put it, you did your prison sentence. Now you're out. Now you can run free like the dogs. Woo! No collar on this one. I'm going.
And I'm working on it. Thank you very much.
Right. You're welcome. Thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate it. Bye-bye. Okay.
Wait till Deborah meets my other crazy friends.
Well, you can define yourself all you want, my dear. So anyways, that is a little bit of what we do. I believe in making the movement. I want to help people to evolve. I want them to have the power back. I don't want them to have to constantly live in timid mode or fearful mode or their emotions be so out of whack that they just can't feel like they can, breathe or evolve. There's a lot a person can do. You don't have to suffer, because suffering is just an option, even on a physical level. And I know that's hard for some people to believe, but you have to be able to move the energy. And when you start to move the energy, you can make a major difference in your world. A lot of people are like, I'm tired of, nope, I'm not going to get sick anymore. I don't need to go there. Amy doesn't ever have to have blood sugar issues anymore. Her blood sugar is pretty much been even keel. You can't hear me. Oh, it's doing that again? Shoot. What about now?
Yes, that's it. That's the problem.
Yeah, but now I can't hear you, but that's okay.
I can hear a little bit.
Yeah, it's as soon as, and I don't understand why that should matter, because that speaker connects to the other machine, not the phone. So it should not even be interfered with it.
She was clear as a bell before.
Right. Now, I bet what if you got out and come back? Would that make a difference with the volume? But it doesn't matter. I don't know how much longer we're going to be, but if you really want to move forward, there's a lot you can do. I have the tribal class or tribal unit, which it's all about healing and helping you grow. And then the academy will hopefully soon be open, and we'll take it one step at a time. And this is really about waking up and taking and seeing life differently, starting to reclaim your power and looking at life through your heart, through your authentic self. And that's what we want to get you back to. So there's lots of things that is upcoming for Medicine Woman Solution. And hopefully, you'll come and join me. And if you want a better life, if you want to resolve to evolve. And here's the other thing. If you want to heal instead of deal, most people think that they have to just deal with life, pacify, manage, control. But if you were to sit there and realize that you can heal, meaning take tools, become the healer, do it yourself, as the shit's happening in your life, then you can start saying, you know what, this is happening. Okay, great. I'm not denying it. Use a healing tool. You can learn to heal instead of deal.
People should remember your website, medicinewomansolution.weebly.com.
Yes. Eventually I will own that name, but remember, there's no S on solutions. It is a Medicine Woman Solution. And you can find me on Facebook. YouTube, I'm not sure what's going on with Australia and YouTube, but there was a warning about something, and it's like, I don't even know if I want to put my stuff up there anymore. So
YouTube changed their terms of service, and they've been, some would argue, it's a good thing that they've been getting more draconian, because what they've done is they've gotten rid of all of the bullshit. The people that are saying, like, the world once the earth split in two and all the water inside of it shot out and froze in space. And when it hit the moon, that's where all the craters come from. And there's aliens that have a base there now, and they're using that water, and they're transmitting a signal out to earth, which is keeping everybody hypnotized. And when you go to the light, when you die, it's to reincarnate, because they're controlling that process. And you need to learn how to not reincarnate and go on to space Jesus, the shit like that. Right. And so they're taking all those sites down, and they're taking down all the hate sites, which is good. Like Alex Jones, I want to tell you, they're putting shit in the water. It's making the frogs gay. Like, we need that shit. Right.
Yeah. So this has been going on for a while, that people are feeling that they're losing their voice and their rights, and it was a platform. And now it feels like everybody's thinking, oh my God, we're going to be, that's all about control. Again, it's about this division we have in ourselves. I like the aspect of when I want to learn something that YouTube can reinvent itself if it wanted to and say, hey, we can look at it this way. But it's hard to do when you feel many things. But I don't even want to go down that road. Here's the thing. If shit's happening and you don't like it, heal your shit. Because the rings out are mirrors of you. And when you begin to notice that you can change that aspect of yourself, things are going to weave in and out. There are people that don't even realize, I can't live without this person. And they're like, where are they now? Oh my God, I haven't had them in my life in so long. I don't know where they went. I don't even know how it ended.
Right.
And it's the same thing with materials. You know, we look back, we love old records, but what happened to the little microchips and the other little things that were in the computers? Like they will evolve out because they're meant to. You don't have to cry about it to stop it being attached to it. You can have all the things you want, but don't let these things have you. So I see, you know, like there's somebody else in the room, because I'm back to the main screen. Cruz. She said, wow, what I'm curious about is if you liked it, that, you know, I could do a quick little read just so that you can experience it. But again, where are we at? How are we doing? And it's good to see that people are here and that we are evolving together. So I appreciate all of the people that are here. Like Michelle says, I've known Brenda a year now, I have grown so much, and I think the world of her. I think of the world of you too. I'm ready for our next adventure, that's for sure. Julie says, hey, beautiful. Oh, Julie says hi to Amy. I don't know. You still can't hear me, Ames? Barely. I don't understand exactly why that's even has to happen. It's not attached. All right, you want me to do it? Okay. So, again, it should not affect each other. Really shouldn't. So I do 3 shows a week, and then I do the tribals, and then I do the academy, and now I'm going to be doing interviews. And a part of that interviewing process, how, you know, my whole thing is that if I climbing a mountain and I'm at the top, I'm going to reach and pull you up ahead, and then I'm going to reach up and you're going to pull me up ahead. There's a different way of looking at it through ego. You can come up with a whole nasty ass way of looking at it, or you can start looking at it from a different angle altogether, which can allow you to support one another and move into the direction, because it's a different mindset. And that is one of the things that I find fascinating and wonderful, because see, that's why I feel like Michelle, we've got an interview coming soon, but that's based on you, and I can help you get to where you need to go so that you can really move forward in your life. And how that helps me is that, I don't know, we'll see. But it's together we're going to grow. We're learning how to balance energies instead of say, oh, what's in it for me? But that's the old saying. It is what is in it for me and what is in it for you. And if you can learn to balance that energy, you both can keep your value. You both can stay worthy and worthful and be that part without having to lose who you are. Can you hear me, Ames?
Yes, I can.
I don't understand why. I still don't understand why that affects it. Okay. Julie says, Brenda, you are one amazing woman, and I love you for what you have given back to me. Aw, joy in my heart. Joy, down in my heart. Sorry. Trauma does not have to be stuck energy and hold you back. Exactly. You can resolve to evolve. So, oh, good. Glad Michelle's super excited. Oh, how in the world Amy gets to see me upside down? There. Shake myself right. Okay, so any other questions? You know, that's equal balance of energy. Exactly. That way you don't get taken for granted and you don't have to create undue karma. That's, you learn how to come in sync. And we're all coming into unity and that integration of the yin and yang. And that's where we're heading. The development of our consciousness is very important. And there's so much. I swear I need a secretary. I need someone to translate, make up a web. But no, Spirit's got it chugging along one thing at a time. And I like this. I feel like I need to set up a mental health group. There was what was the other things that Spirit said, hey, you need to do this too. And they always come to me, and they're all suggestions, but it's about more into the alignment of light and hope. Hope has always followed me everywhere I go. And no matter how dark times are, all I have to do is say, okay, thank you, Spirit, show me the hope, and wave my magic wand. And the next thing you know, I see. And we can train ourselves to see the future, the excitement, the goodness, because the opportunities are always in front of you, but we keep grabbing the same shit different day. But if we can train ourselves to see what we're asking for, whether good or bad, if we need to get to this next step, maybe we need to resolve our stuff so we can take that energy to the next part. Or if we are saying that we really want to see a sign, can you allow yourself to see the unfoldment? Like, how do we know we're getting out of this hell in this world here? Well, that is, you start looking for the good turnarounds. And when you start focusing on the turnarounds, that's going to start gaining momentum, because everything's an air castle until you start to bring it into existence. And the more you focus on the same shit different day, the more you're going to get of that. But if you start focusing on the different levels of things that could be possible, you're going to start seeing things as opportunities. Yes, mental class. Yes. I'm not saying it. Yes. So there are, but as far as the movement goes, what I do is it's called the Becoming a Spiritual Human, and there's a glossary, a whole different way of speaking with different words, with different definitions. And when you start to this adventure of your life, you're going to begin to notice that you're going to start, oh God, I ran with scissors today, which means you went into extreme high beta, went into the left field of your mind, and went into your hells, and then your hells owned you. But there are tools to turn that around. When you start to define, like people usually take 5 different emotions, anger, fear. Well, they always say they're not fearful, but fearful is just, love and fear. And then it's what's underneath it. And when you start to define it, so like a lot of people say to me, oh, I was just angry. And I'm like, well, your anger actually was how much you felt against lofty energy. It's your response. It's not just you're angry. And so you begin to define little things. People have impending doom. When I say look that up, because when you think of impending doom, you're thinking of a bad catastrophe. No, I'm not. But your impending doom might be the fact that you don't want to endure something. So it's taking the definition of something and going deeper. You can take in just as simple words. Usually people will say, like, what is the one? I'll just have Spirit point it out. Scorn. And you start to look at what scorn means and the dictionary of a collective consciousness of what we're looking at, so we can communicate on that definition level. We've all individually defined the word based on our experiences, and through time did what's called the telephone chain, where one person heard the definition and it got changed, and over time now it means this for each individual. But when you start to come back to basics, you can then change and say, no, I don't like to be scorned. You're right. But I'm going to take my power back, because I also know that I don't want to scorn others. And you can begin to evolve just based on a definition of a word. And you start applying healing tools with that, you really can allow yourself to really move mountains in just a short amount of time. Yeah, Amy knows. Okay. So I really appreciate you guys. I really do. And I appreciate this opportunity. So again, when it comes to the word that you have issues with, and what is that word? Do you remember what his word was?
I do.
Which is what?
Gratitude.
And change the definition. Can you receive?
Yeah.
Have you received? Have you received nice things from people? Have you received love from people? Have you received greetings from people?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you can say, I am thankful for. that I've received this. And it's a different way of saying I have gratitude. You don't have to go, I have gratitude. So changing the definition can actually help you understand, oh, let me review my life a little differently. You know, I'm grateful that I can breathe. I am grateful that I got up today and I'm able to do this. I'm grateful that, hey, my future in my horoscope says that you're going to wake up. Thank you. You know, there's a joke in there, but
just don't get your horoscope out of the paper.
We don't have those anymore.
Well, they have them here.
Yeah, well, you can be persuaded in one way or the other, but you can also learn how to look through your filters, especially when you heal and you evolve. You can look at it and go, nope, not, yep. This is where that disassociation is that, yeah, if I'm supposed to hear about the news will, spirit will deliver it in one way or the other. But I don't then have to intentionally set up a program where I have to dirty my mind every 2 seconds, or I have to be so involved because I'm scared or impending doom, or I have to worry. You can eliminate those things and you can start focusing on the moment of now. Excuse me. Okay. Do you have any questions, or is it all good?
Oh no, I've been watching the flow between you and to see the examples of the work between you and the clients, and listening to the ethos of what it is that you do. You have to excuse me, the air in here is a little close, and I'm familiar with your show anyway, and I'm familiar with your show from before when you did it on the network. But there's really a depth to it, and you bring a more than a few layers of training to what you do. And for those that aren't necessarily acquainted with it, they may not understand that there is, in fact, a whole, what's the word I'm looking for? The training that's gone into, partly from experience and partly from, academic, to enable you to do what it is that you're doing. People may not realize that right away, because some people, like, for instance, take psychics, for instance. I do psychic work, and there is experience that I bring to the fore when I do that. But a lot of people who, they just put up a sign, or they put themselves out there on the internet or whatever, and like, hey, I'm a psychic, and they're not. And they're faking it, and they're just running psychobabble past you, and they're taking your money, because that's the point. And you can't really call them on their bullshit because it's from over there. So there's really no way to verify it. It's kind of like listening to a politician. Really, seriously, that's an old game. That's an old game, right? And
exactly.
People are so searching and sometimes desperate for that information that they'll gladly pony up that cash, which is not what we're talking about when you are dealing with somebody legit. It's not what we're talking about here, because here we have somebody who, the psychic aspect of this is only part of what you're doing. The rest of it is actually could be described as clinical without trying to cross, jump the fence over into licensed healthcare. Not going there. This is an entirely different thing. It's a training in how to train somebody to shift their perspective and change their reality in a literal sense. And it would work in conjunction with any other modalities that might only be delivered by someone licensed, board certified and licensed as healthcare. It certainly can exist side by side, and it would depend on the healthcare professional as to how they see that.
Exactly.
But that's what, if I were to describe this to someone who was hearing about it but wasn't seeing it, then I would have to say, this is somebody that's trained, who deals with different layers of consciousness, and shows you how it is that you've derailed yourself or allowed yourself to become derailed, or may not have even been aware of the options of not allowing it. And now that you're aware of the options and you're aware of what you can do, it's up to you to take the steps to do it. So it's really about awareness. You're training people to be aware. You're training people to be present, to see themselves. And that's, some people aren't ready to do that. And but a lot of people are ready to do it. And if that wasn't true, you wouldn't be doing this, because there wouldn't be anybody to talk to. So people are ready to see themselves for real and see how it is that they, the filters, they may only have one or two filters that they see the universe through. And it isn't the whole set of lenses that they can use. There are other things that they can see, other ways in which they can perceive what's out there and how it is that they fit together with it all. And they don't yet. And so they need a little help. Some of the people that you're training now or that you're helping now may, in fact, go on to do something very similar to what you're doing.
Yeah. Well,
eventually.
Let me answer this here. Well, first of all, Jaden says, so how do you guys spiritually fact check your own intuition with readings? Okay. The one thing that I do different than anybody else is you have to understand what level that you're at. So if you're just starting out how to become an intuitive, you're going to be in a practice training, and you have training wheels, and you're going to find out what works and doesn't work. And you got to know whether you're connecting to just the astral plane or you're going higher. You are learning. And so these are steps. People want to hear this. But if you come across as in this ego mindset as a cocky person, then you are going to connect up with, I'm going to personally profile, I'm going to do this. And you really are not connecting into it, but you can find certain things where you can pull people in. Now, I don't do fishing. Fishing is that term where you go out and you put out things and then you have people answer back. And you're like, see? No, I don't do that. It depends on how you do it. Now, there's nothing wrong with fishing.
There is. Yeah, there is.
No. Just a minute. If I'm talking to you, like I was talking to, what's her name?
Devra.
Oh, now it makes sense in my head. Okay. The thing is, there's what's called a rapport. And if she can connect with something that I'm saying, then it's her in her world. Okay, so there's a big difference of fact checking. I also have a lot of ethics. I don't believe in telling people their future, because when I'm looking, I see the quantum field above your head. There will be different colors.
It's fluid, right? It's not going to be the same what's the future right this moment isn't going to necessarily be the same future 5 minutes from now.
Yeah, and what I see are variables. I see what energy you have invested. If you give it 100%, they're going to be up forefront. And actually, I could tell you how your future is going to go, because how you do anything is how you do everything. So you are picking up what you've done the day before, which is 90% of your thoughts today are from the day before, and you're going to have them tomorrow. And what happens is I can actually see how you're just going to repeat a pattern. But I don't really want you to stay there. So I can start pulling in information based on your emotions and your particular thought patterns. And I can say, okay, do you really want that? Now, if you have invested of only 50%, then they will also show up as different colors. These are choices that you've made. You picked up a particular experience, but you're willing to heal those first, right? Okay.
But to go back 1 point, though, when I was saying, you were saying nothing wrong with fishing, you weren't referring to the same thing I was referring to. You made the valid point that, yes, I have to throw it out there to see how the rapport is going to connect, and, which is, of course, totally legit. But what I was referring to is, the horse shit that we see with these people that are going, I sense somebody, is it the letter P, L? No, is it S? No, is it O, R? Yeah, of course. If you get halfway down the alphabet, you're going to hit a fucking letter. I mean, yeah, and people unfortunately don't see through that you're just that's a different kind of fishing, and it's horseshit.
It is, and that's why I refuse to do it. And so how do I fact check? I look and see that no, if all I'm going to do is that, then I am not a good reader. I will have to keep diving deeper. but you have to do it with the authenticity. You have to decide how you want your ethics. Like, I don't go and sit there and say, hey, you have this physical issue. I will say, energetically, you're putting more energy over here, and it could cause an issue. And it's based on these thoughts and these feelings. Like when she was picking up, I was picking up panic for her. I can feel where she had it. Doesn't necessarily mean there's a disease. She could create it, but she also could uncreate it. And that's part of what's resolving to evolve. So when it comes to spiritually fact checking, I sit there and I don't even have to, like, if I'm going to just talk to the dead, they're going to give me images. I'm just going to take and deliver the mail. How you interpret it will be your way. And if I'm going to sit there and I'm going to want to be right with the attitude and ego that I want to be right, then I'm going to somehow put my words into place so that you will start to agree with me. Again, you watch these people. Their audience will depend on the level of where they're at and the level of where their audience is at. So when I look at my numbers, I don't care that I only have 26 instead of 300. I'm not collecting people. I'm not about, it's got to be right. I'm right. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact is that if you are ready to want a better life, okay, so it's, again, goes back to my ethics. What is my purpose? What is going on? It's not getting out there and saying, oh, I got to man, it's about the money. I got to pay my bills. And, and it really drives me crazy when people are just, oh, come on, I'm right. You can pull something. It's like when you hear a hearing and somebody says, no, you can only answer yes or no. And there's more to the story. And it's always a trick question whether you say yes or no. And so now once you say yes, even though it's actually could be both, you get stuck in this loop. So fact check. Do you want to be like those people? Oh, I want to learn about spirituality. Okay, great. But if you also want to learn how to become intuitive, don't go out there and say, I'm going to learn from the catalog of life. Oh, and I'm going to, look they fish. I'm going to fish. Oh, that looks like a good quality. Oh, here's another quality. I'm going to project my stuff out there to make them think there's only one answer, and that's mine. Oh, no, put the damn thing down. Do some investigating. But if you're in a terrible position and you need an answer and you're like, I need a psychic, your head is not going to be in the space to receive. So you're going to line up to only the level of consciousness to where you are. And if you feel like you're just learning this, then you may be attracted to somebody that will relate to your familiarity.
That's why I fire my clients.
My pain. Yeah.
That's why
I fire them. Yeah, but the way I fire them is the fact is that they say they want something and then they come back. And then they say they want something. I'm like, okay, do you want to keep repeating this? No, then let's see you work. And if they don't want to do it, then say, okay, I'm not here to enable you or to hold your hand. I'm going to hold space. But I don't feel worthy to take your money because it's not me. I don't want to be your mother. I don't want to have to do this. I want you to get out of that ego state of mind, that hellish state of mind. I want you to take your energy. Now, if you want to apply this and change your thinking, then we can work. I've had people come to me and they have one particular outcome. I want him to love me. Heal your shit. Oh, I don't have any issues. Okay.
Of course not.
I don't need.
That's why you called me.
Right. I don't need to take you, but I will help you understand that if you keep thinking this way, this is going to keep happening. And maybe you're supposed to plant little seeds with people. And then there's some people that you just know you're not in alignment with. Then you can refer them to somebody else. Because, and so, again, if I feel like you haven't gotten what you want, if you have a different agenda, and I don't know that until after the fact, then I don't need you to sit there and condemn me because you didn't get what you wanted. We need to have a report at the beginning.
And weren't forthcoming, right?
And so guess what? You go and do what you need to do, but I don't have to be there. So Jaden says, yeah, there is a difference between fishing and conversational reading. Yeah, okay, conversational reading. Fishing is prior to any connection with someone usually. But conversational reading is one I enjoy doing because me and the then interpret the cards together and find what they need to know. If you're going to use cards, yes, there is a protocol. There is a set way of guidelines. And if you start to be able to take what that is and start to interpret that with a set of cards, you can help a person with their future based on maybe what they have to resolve. Because if you understand cards versus tarot versus regular oracle cards, some are guidance, some can give you just the fluff and stuff, some are showing you where you're at your level of consciousness, whether it is on the mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual level. So I have nothing wrong with certain readers. I have problems when somebody sits there and they do post-hypnotic suggestions that are very unhealthy for the person to receive it. Mm. I have problems with people that sit there and says, oh, there is only an absolute. It's my way or the highway. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry, you have missed the whole point of all the variables, the quantum field. Mm-hmm. And when people, like when my mother, this nurse said, hey, you know what? She's mad at me. And she took it out by saying, oh, your mother's going to be dead in 30 days. My mother heard this. She died in exactly 30 days. Her attitude of happiness drove down to the nothingness. There was no way for me to get this woman happy again. And it was all because this woman was pissed at me and said shit to me to hurt me in order to show she was right. Without realizing it, she just took out a life. Am I blaming? She needed to be responsible for the energy she put in the room. She had an intention. She got it. My mother heard it. My mother said, oh, that's an authority. They're right. And I all I kept telling her was, you don't have a toe tag on that says you have to be dead.
I saw something similar myself, that I was approached by professional intuitive with information about someone else that we knew who was posing as an intuitive, who took a reading, and this one individual, his girlfriend killed herself. Oh. And so he thought she was mad at him and wouldn't let him back in because he'd gone to the store for something. And so he slept in the car or whatever. But what had happened was when he left, she locked the door and did the thing. And then when he finally was able to get back into the cabin the next day, when he figured out something might be really wrong, he found her. And her mother and her little sister, like, 16 years old or whatever, and him went for a reading with somebody that was putting themselves out there as, the next David Blaine or some shit. It was all horse shit, though. And got a reading, and during the reading, and the reason I came to find out about this was because this other professional intuitive that I know, that you may also know, let's just leave it at that, was approached by this querent, by this person who needed the reading, said that during the reading that the reader said, sometimes that's the right decision to be made. To, first of all, a grieving family. Second of all, one of whom is 16. And at 16, grieving the loss of your big sister to whom you were very close, being told that suicide is a valid choice sometimes. Now, this was not somebody that had terminal cancer, was in horrible pain, and all the things that you might, mitigating circumstances you might take into consideration. This was just somebody that, out of the blue, a young, vibrant, healthy, apparently happy person wasn't, or had something organically wrong and just, off themselves. Something wasn't right, clearly. And that's, the shock wave is devastating. And then the waves of grief and all the bullshit that comes with that. And now this 16-year-old is in the room during this reading being told, that's okay. That's about as irresponsible as it fucking gets.
Correct.
And so I was told about it because there was an individual here in the area that kind of sort of oversees, all the people of this ilk in an unofficial way. And I went to that person and said, you need to know about something, because this person provides venues and so forth. And, I said, this is what happened. You need to have a talk with the appropriate parties, and this can't happen again. So it really goes to the story that you just told, the examples that you just gave. My story here is an example of this and how devastatingly tragic and real it can get. What if, and then another reading was done, by the way, by somebody competent, again, by somebody that you probably know tangentially, and things were fixed, let's say. Damage control was done and a proper way of dealing with this situation was done on a psychic level. And then, of course, referrals were made to psychologists. Like, you need to now, seeing the psychic is what this person told them. Seeing me isn't, that's something that's valuable for you to do. And I am a medium and I can relay messages, which she did. But, she was very much like, I'm going to have to insist that you go seek professional help from clinical psychologist or a counselor or something, that because you're not done here. This is going to take you a long time to sift through. This is damage control. When a bomb goes off, it takes a long time to clean up what used to be a building. And that's what they then had to do, which they did, which was the responsible thing to do. So as a psychic reader, you do have obligations. You do have a role to play, even though some other people on the professional spectrum of different types of, people that are available to help people through hard times. The psychic is one of them. The ethical psychic doesn't care if those other people on the professional spectrum recognize you as valid. I don't give a shit if you like me. I don't care if you think what I do is real. What I do care about is that the people that are in pain get in front of you because you can help them. And I know that I'm fully aware that you agree with that standpoint, but there are people out there, and I know you know this, that don't follow that ethic. They just don't.
Right.
And like you said, somebody, this woman, like you just told, said a thing that was highly irresponsible, and somebody died. They don't give a shit.
Right.
So it's just, yeah. I mean, you are responsible for your shit. I really think there should be a legal accountability for that. That's just me.
In that sense, yes, I understand that that's where we could go. But at the same time, what can we do instead of sitting back saying we hate this? What can we do? I'm going to take the third option. Spirit keeps telling me that I need to take what I've learned and help people to become better, authentic healers. The people that do the healing, the people that do the healings and they resolving to evolve, they're finding that because they are going to their authentic self, their authenticity of their intuition is coming from a higher plane instead of out of ego or judgment. Because of this, they're like, well, wow, I'm becoming more intuitive. What am I supposed to do with this? And it's like, should I go and help people? I feel this calling, and I feel like there needs to be a protocol, some form of way to help people say, yeah, you want to be intuitive? Let's help you become intuitive. Let's give you a set of things that you can do, whether you want to do them or not. But so it's like, do I want to start a course to help people become intuitive so that they can embrace that natural ability that they have covered up for years? And now that it's coming out, how do we help you sift through all of those filters that you haven't resolved? How do we help you go through and get out of ego mindset and into the spiritual mindset? And I feel like that is an area that we're meant to be doing, is to help people to hold the space to which who they are in their authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it holds big responsibilities. And it is learning to set up a tone to help people. Like, again, I have watched people that have decided that, yes, I'm going to be a reader, and they're learning how to use their skill. And they're so far off in the left field, they're getting the technique down, but they are not connected to the higher self. They're not connected up to the bandwidth. They're pulling shit from the astral, which is, yeah, you're psychic, but you are pulling shit. The astral realm can get very dirty.
The astral realm is low vibration. It's low orbit. It's where things that are encountered that are often referred to as demons are located. darker energies are in the astral. It's when you go past the astral, higher out or higher up or higher out, however you chose to identify with that. Think of it like the Earth. When you leave the Earth in a capsule or a rocket ship or whatever, low orbit, you can still see the haze. You can still see all the atmosphere. And then as you get further out or further away, it certainly clears up, and it's like there's nothing. There's just a vacuum. In space, it's a vacuum, but spiritually, it's a clearer vision. It's the things that you encounter are very easy to focus on. But in the lower orbit, the astral orbit, it's like being in the fog. Now you can get the wrong idea though too. Now I'm a remote viewer, right? So I can tell you that being in the astral, if you can negotiate it, I should say navigate it quickly, which is to say laterally, with a remote view, what we use photonic energy. So the photons that react with everything they literally illuminate things. They cast light on things so that you can see them. And that's how the method of connection with photons somewhere else, like it's been shown that Sitchin did a remote viewing to objects that are on the moon that were being observed by astronauts. Now, that was done instantaneously. It was done over quite a distance. That's about 250,000 miles, give or take. And distance doesn't mean anything. That's how you connect with those photons. I haven't figured out yet. There are theories as to how this works. Scientific theories, not just like mumbo jumbo woo-woo theories. But remember that magic is science that has yet been unnamed. So because something hasn't been named yet doesn't mean it isn't a science waiting to be discovered.
Exactly.
So that's what we're dealing with, and more and more you see in the box, not outside the box, but in the box scientists, established scientific community using scientific method, often find these revelations. And then they say, oh, we've been able to determine this, and this is how we were able to verify that it's real. And then, some of these symposiums that have happened between those scientists and people like me, people like Brenda, it's like, yeah, we've been doing that for years. I mean, you gave it a name, but we didn't need to give it a name. It's just the thing we do. And so it's like, the one thing that caused them to, and this had to do with chaos theory. The one thing that caused them to start taking the metaphysical community seriously, them being scientists, was that a series of calculations were done to show if there was anything to the theory that when you're looking for something that you think exists, but you haven't found it, and you're calculating, using whatever type of math, to try to figure out, like, does this work or does this not work mathematically? Because if it doesn't work mathematically, then it can't work in the real world. And they'll come up with all these, they'll try to figure out how it is this could exist and under what conditions it could be and where you might find it and so on and so forth. And then, so in terms of, say, something in space, they're trying to figure out, does that really exist? We think it does. Then the theory came out that it exists because you thought it up.
Yes.
It didn't exist before at all. But
Right.
you conjured it. Yeah, they conjured it. So that's now a thing in science, that's an actual theory in science that says it didn't exist till you conjured it. Well, fuck, dude, that's what all the occultists already know, So it's not, you got to remember that this is all based in, it can be quantified. More and more things will become quantified, and less will be called magic. More and more will be called the principle of this or the law of that or the such and such corollary or whatever. It'll all be scientifically quantified and named. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. It'll take some of the mystery out of it. But
There will
it's
be a mystery
that's
somewhere.
that's reality, though. That's what's happening. A little more and more as we go along, baby steps, but that's what's happening.
Exactly. So, some of you, you're getting ready to go to sleep, and some of you are, so we appreciate you being here. Now, Jaden, if you're here, if you would like a quick read, then yes, it can be done. I just don't have to have my lips flapping in the wind. We can actually do a little action here. But it is important that we do be responsible. And I feel that's one reason when I got online, it was like, why am I doing this? Spirit says, because you're needed. And so some of us are called to action to help you feel better mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And there are ways to help people to dive into their natural abilities that they have suppressed or shut off for a very long time. And they're coming back online. We have so many light codes that are coming on, and people's minds are expanding, and sometimes they can't catch up with it. But then some of it is just so easy. They're like, yeah, I know that. But if you asked them 10 years ago, they'd like, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. So a natural progression is going to begin to happen. Yes, wonderful. Okay, Jade, now you can do it in a couple ways. We can do it just like this, or you can eventually come online. So normally, like in my shows, if somebody's paid, then you get longer. Otherwise, we just do a 1 minute. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on and just say, Spirit, tell me what you want her to know.
Jaden's lucky because he's our last reading tonight.
Yeah, and it's he, right? But there's a female definitely next.
He or she, I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. But
there's definitely a female energy. I don't know who it is either. That doesn't matter. The energy is that out of sympathy. Do people come to you and give you sympathetic energy, and you get muddled and you find yourself saying yes about things you didn't want to say yes to? They said that the outside energy seems to make you vibrate. Now, if you understand resonation, that is where like two pendulums are going two different directions and all of a sudden they go in sync. It means your energy starts to come in sync with them. It's not by the power of choice, but it's the power of Jaden, it's male. But the kitty cat is what I'm... Okay, anyway, we'll skip that. But notice... Notice the fact is that your energy, so you're kind of more absorbing than you are observing, and you're doing really good with I feel like you're sensitive, but you're also more of a I don't know if you're a kinesthetic, but the point is you're able to begin to do a read. As you begin to do this reading, you have to remember to break from this. Let me just tell you about breaking. Oh, see? Says pronouns don't matter. I'm non-binary. I had a feeling that made... Okay, awesome. Okay. Jaden, you got a gift. This is for sure. You're building, you're doing, you're learning ethics. But you need to break away from some of the people you read. Because you could be a whole week later. And if your energy does a morphine thing, you won't realize that your polarity switched or that your body's responding and it's not your energy. So remember to say your name 3 times when you're done with this person, whether you want to say it one name, full name, however you want to say it, but you say it. Then I'm going to do what's called the peanut butter. Now, peanut butter is very important. Okay. This means you are breaking connection and you're saying closure, I am done. Okay, so I don't really have to do peanut butter anymore because I'm read through the mirror. But I still have to break my connection sometimes with that frequency. So what we learn in Reiki, what we learn in other things is that you are responsible for that energy of that breaking of that connection. Because when you feel and you're connected, you can't help but find familiarity. And if you do that, you can drive yourself further into an ego stance. And you're like, what? I don't think this way. If you can catch yourself, then you'll know, oh shit, I need to break connection. Okay. So peanut butter is you rub your hands together. You breathe in, you breathe out. And you place your hands on your thighs for a form of a grounding. And then what you're going to do is this person is in front of you. Okay. You don't have to have them in front of you. You can just use your imagination, however you're doing the reading. Or if you've got way too many people, like breaking connection with all of you, I don't know all of your names, so I will group you. Okay, very simple. Then you pick your hands up and you scoop it like a ball. And then you're going to scoop the energy that's in front of you, around you, okay, in this group. Once you do, you take it to the top and you peanut butter it down. You smooth it all the way down to the ground, and then you scoop again. Okay, now sometimes if you start paying attention, you're going to feel the weirdness of this energy, whether it's prickly or it's gooey or the shape of it or the color. And then you get to the top, you spread it down. And if you get really good, you can even hear some of the conversations, and you scoop it back up again, right? Now, sometimes it depends on how you want to scoop it. It's not right way or wrong way. Just don't put your hands together. Now, this one's a weirdly odd shaped one. Okay, it's getting bigger. So once I've scooped it all up, spray it all down, peanut butter all the way down. And when you're done, you say, it's yours. And it's the connection of intention that allows the energy to go there, and you get to have yours. And then I will tell you to do Connecting Heaven and Earth. You can go to the website. It's free information. Do Connecting Heaven and Earth, Celtic Weave. You should be fine. You shouldn't have to do the Wayne Cook, but end it with the zip up. Okay, or in this case, it's called the hook up. And that is pushing your finger in the belly button and your forehead, pushing in and smiling. And then you are creating this energy loop around you. So, and the thing is that you will learn that once you start to hold your energy in this particular space, you will actually be able to read them clearer. And you can streamline a lot better. Just let you know. I'm a Gemini too, so I automatically take on people's energies anyway, so this is very helpful. Yeah, there's lots to do. Like I said, go on there, look for Celtic Weave. That's a huge one. It kicks people's energy out. Connecting Heaven and Earth, it does kick people's energy out, but it does a lot more because it allows the figure eights. The Celtic Weave also helps you bring in the strange flows, which is joy. You're connected to joy, so these are joy cords. So you can start bringing in the healthier energies that feed the body, the light starts feeding the cells, okay? So, yes, that is the website. There's free healing tools. And I think it's very important that we stand in this presence. I felt like it was a movement. I needed to come in and I needed to talk. Now, it's up to you. We have people that pay things forward. It's because you're ready for the movement. You're ready to get out of that hell and getting into the light. The better, the more, the faster. Yes, we can do a lot of these things together. Just remember, you can resolve to evolve. And that just means resolving your issues so that your soul will evolve. Your progression of your life will evolve. You can go to the next step of healing instead of dealing. And because my moderator's here, and we're just about done, isn't that correct, Steve? Yes? Oh, he's putting his headphones in. Okay, so we're just about done. Is that correct, Steve?
Yeah, I was gone there for a second.
Yeah.
Why are you asking?
Oh, because I was just going to say if we're about finished, I was going to wrap it up. And I was just going to wrap it up with the closing of one of the things I do so that you can start wrapping it up the way you want to do it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so one of the things we like to tell people is to help them remind them. Resolve to evolve.
Heal instead of deal.
You can heal that.
Feel it to heal it.
And when in doubt,
heal it out.
And above all, always stay blessed.
Stay blessed.
And I thank you, Steve, for this opportunity to have this platform for being able to communicate with new people, older people, friends, family, relatives, soul tribes. And I thank that. Thank you.
Well, you make for an interesting show. That's certainly true. And I do think that there are a lot of people that haven't heard about anything you're doing that are like tonight was a good example with Deborah. She hadn't ever heard of, she'd heard of it because she's seen traffic, that I have shared, but prior to that, prior to hearing about you because of me in this particular case, didn't know. And I'm sure there's plenty of people like that have not had the opportunity to run into your, become exposed to your information and that delivery. And so she was an example of someone that had just recently become aware of you and then got a reading and was shown like, yeah, this is the real thing and this is helpful to you. Now, I know for a fact that she's going to talk about that with people X, Y, and Z and word of mouth and all that. Yeah. And that's how you grow. That's the best marketing there is.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. So I think that'll be beneficial. And I think, you're going to see there's going to come a point. There's always a point in everything where you hit you'll progress maybe slowly, let's say, to a certain point, and then all of a sudden, you're familiar with 100 monkey syndrome, right?
Oh, absolutely.
For those that don't know, 100 monkey syndrome is the point at which, and it was documented. We can go into the story later, but just long story short, 100 monkey syndrome was on a given point when enough people are thinking about a certain thing. If enough people are all thinking about that thing, suddenly it's transmitted like a Tesla tower. It's transmitted everywhere, and it becomes, why did the Germans, the Japanese, and the Americans all start building an automobile at the same time, and they weren't talking to each other at all? Mm-hmm. How did that, why at the same time? Because one of those areas, one group, somebody had an idea, and then they started talking about it with somebody, and they were like, oh, really? And then they started really talking about it. And then the third person became involved, and then a fourth person. And by the time, and this is a real theory that's out there, by the time that 100th person was involved in talking about this new idea, that's when all of a sudden everybody else had an idea, but they weren't having an idea. They were receiving a transmission of an idea that already existed. So some of your ideas are yours. Some of them, you're just a radio picking up a channel.
Exactly.
And you think it's your idea, and it isn't your idea. You think it's your anger. You think it's your whatever. You're just picking up a broadcast. So, Brenda's the kind of person that can, your business is going to reach that 100 monkey point where it's going to all of a sudden explode. But people should also understand that, how does that work, and how does the actual science bleed over into the metaphysical? How does the metaphysical bleed over into the actual science? And that's what you're doing. You're showing that they're basically the same thing. They're just looking at it from different aspects. So yeah, your healing is valid. Coming from the metaphysical, it's simply a different aspect of the same thing. Somebody goes to their chiropractor for this or that. Somebody goes to their osteopath for this or that. Somebody goes to their podiatrist or their general practitioner or what have you, or their psychologist. You're dealing with those same things that are manifesting in them from the metaphysical aspect. It's simply, it's not what they do. It's complementary to what they do. And it's clearly valid, as we've seen tonight, with Deborah. We saw that tonight as just one example of, many people you've seen that have all come in going, hey, something's not, I don't know what it is, but I know something's not right. And then you tell them what it is. And there's a way in which you can determine what it is, and that you receive that information. That's the metaphysical part. And then they'll go, holy shit, yeah, that's right. But the thing is, it isn't fishing. It isn't letter Q, letter L, letter S. Oh, there you go. It isn't that. You're actually getting the info, and you're actually applying it specifically to that person because they brought that with them. The other person that comes along, they didn't bring that with them. They brought something completely different because it's a completely different person with a completely different pathway. So that's how you know it's valid, because it's not all the same shtick for each person.
No.
So that's what I mean. It's like if people say, oh, it's just a bunch of horseshit. It isn't a bunch of horseshit. It's actually real. So that's what makes this difference. That's why I'm involved with, that's why I'm having, Brenda on the show for 3 hours, because it's legit. And that's what people need to know. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. We're ready to make a difference. We really are. And I thank you very much. But I do need to get going because I do have clients, and it's time for me to resolve to evolve on a smaller sense.
So I do these broadcasts fairly regularly, but not like every Monday or whatever. They happen with more and more frequency, and you're going to see some big changes in the show, artistically wise. I'll talk to Brenda more about that later. But if you want to take a look at what Forbidden America does, there are archives out there. There's a podcast. You can find me on Spotify, Google Podcasts, all over the place. Just look for Forbidden America. I'm right there. I'm also on anchor.fm for that podcast. All the same podcast, all different venues. And this show airs on Facebook / Forbidden America, also on Twitch, soon to be on YouTube. And I'm also going over to LinkedIn. So it's in lots and lots of places. And the audio for these is about to get stripped and put onto Spotify as well. So, Brenda, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And I hope that, in the future you can come back on and we can maybe have like a round table with some folks and, piss some people off and shake them up and make them wake up. When I say piss people off, I mean that in a good way, right?
Okay. Yeah. I know we both come from two different platforms. I respect where you're at. It's like, okay, what does Steve have planned for me? We'll see what happens. So, all right.
Right. So anyway, with that, I'm going to sign off. And Brenda, if you want to know more about the changes in the show, why don't you hook up with me like tomorrow or the next day, and I'll tell you what that's going to be all about. I'm pretty excited about it. So.
Well, that's good. Yeah, we'll see what happens because my schedule gets busier and busier, and I'm going to eventually get a day off. We'll see what happens. But anyway,
I'll just make an appointment.
You might have to. All right, we'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.